We have the official news. Deshaun Watson suspended 11 weeks, and it sounds like this is a done deal. I mean, I got bamboozled when we first had the report saying it was 6 weeks. I thought it was 6, and the very next day they came out and said, oh, just wait 1 second, buckaroo. Maybe the reason you updated your draft guide isn't valid at all. And now we know what to expect for guys like Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, David Njoku, Deshaun Watson. So I will be excited to go through and look at some updated, I know I said mock drafts. I know I said mock, but no, these are real money fantasy football drafts. And see where these guys are going now. I mean, we technically have a preseason game going, but it's about to be the end of the first half. I honestly, not going to lie to you, I didn't watch a second of the preseason game. I pulled it up on my phone to just see who was playing. I saw, okay, yeah, there's nobody I care to watch. And then instead we watched the second episode of Hard Knocks. And based on what I saw with the Bucs, probably a pretty good call. I don't need to go out there and see Travis Homer do anything for the Seattle Seahawks. I think I'm just completely fine on that front. But we're going to take Jonathan Taylor here at pick 1. Then you have Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase off the board. Obviously on Underdog, this is the standard. This is what you should come to expect. These 5 players in whatever order you may see them. I mean, we're getting more and more Christian McCaffrey at pick 1, which I don't need to bore you and talk about that anymore. I know y'all already tired about me talking about that. And one other thing that you're tired of hearing about that I have to tell you, just in case there's one person living under a rock that somehow has not tuned into one of these live streams, and we've been doing them every single night for a month. We're going to be doing them every single night till the season kicks off as well. We're drafting on Underdog Fantasy right now. The reason I do this every single night is A, I appreciate y'all and I want to draft with you. And B, more importantly, Underdog Fantasy is just so much fun to draft on. You can draft with me in a live stream. You can draft in a public lobby. You can draft with your friends. And because it's best ball, there's no in-season time commitment at all. That's what allows me to draft 500, 600 of these teams in the offseason. And when you go and sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK through the link in the live chat description of the video, regardless of where you go, if you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Look at our 2022 fantasy football rankings and our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with a $10 deposit. So take advantage of that. You've already heard me say it a million times. If you haven't taken advantage of it yet, you literally have something wrong with you. But outside of the Jonathan Taylor selection, I mean, we have Joe Mixon off the board here, pick 8. Joe Mixon has an ADP hovering around 14, 15. Now, personally, I think once you have those top 2 running backs off the board with Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey, it's a crapshoot. You go through and you take whoever the hell you want. If you want to go through, if you want to take Joe Mixon, if you want to take Derrick Henry, if you want to take Dalvin Cook, if you want to take Najee Harris, you do you. I honestly think those guys are all about the same. They all have their red flags. They all at the same time have some reasons you can get excited about drafting them. I don't need to dive into it any further than we already have. I think what we need to look at is the roster construction you have with these teams that decide to go with the Derrick Henry or Joe Mixon round 1. They're double dipping with the running back position on the way back around here. In the middle of the second, you have DeAndre Swift going 17. This is a completely fair price point for DeAndre Swift. I've talked down on drafting Swift this year because I do think it's funny that everybody calls him a league winner when those same people were worried about Jamal Williams last season. And I've also talked down on DeAndre Swift this year because a lot of people are taking him over Najee Harris. A lot of people are taking him right there at the end of the first round. I have a very hard time taking DeAndre Swift at the end of the first, but if you're going to get DeAndre Swift at 17, what am I supposed to say? That's great value on it. Okay. Derek says, I've changed my style so I don't hate it as much, but it's been 12 drafts in a row with 8 or 9. 8 or 9 is pretty damn tough. Like, I feel like 7, 8, 9, you're sitting in no man's land. It's hell. And hell, I'm very excited about this. We are going to get Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb on the same roster. In regards to what we were seeing with Deshaun Watson, the reason I didn't necessarily feel the need to go through and make an entire video about Deshaun Watson being suspended 11 weeks, I think the Deshaun Watson situation and how you should be altering your fantasy football draft strategy with it is very, very dependent on the league that you're playing in. So if you're going to be playing in a casual fantasy football redraft league, for example, like say you're playing in a league where you have 6 bench spots, you can only start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex. First off, I'll say fix your life, at least add a couple flexes, add a couple bench spots so it makes it interesting. But if that's your format, in reality, Deshaun Watson isn't going to be someone you can even draft unless you can go through and with the suspension, you can put him on your IR. If your commissioner, for whatever reason, sets it up in that way, sure, go draft Deshaun Watson. But if you're playing in that shallow redraft format, Watson's going to be undraftable just because, hell, you can't burn that roster spot for the first 11 weeks in a shallow league where options on the waiver wire are going to give you some week winning players on a week-to-week basis. You will be able to go through and use that roster spot by picking up the hot waiver wire running back. I guess now we don't have those pickups due to the COVID list, but still, we know players are going to get injured. And if you're not able to use that extra roster spot, you are going to be at a disadvantage. So in those shallow redraft formats, you can't take Watson. Of course, Dynasty Superflex, Watson's a second-round pick, a first-round pick, in my opinion. I know a lot of people want to call him a second. Deshaun Watson's a first-round selection in that format. Go trade anything you can for Watson. And then if we're going to be looking at an Underdog best ball tournament draft in that format, which is where we've been drafting Deshaun Watson all offseason, he's still the same exact guy I've always projected. We've assumed that he's going to miss about 8 weeks. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll go through. I'll draft this player in the 15th, 16th round. I'll go through and I'll take him in the same range where you have, Marvin Jones is off the board before then, but we are taking him for the reason that we know he's going to have a low ownership in that fantasy football playoff tournament at the very end of the season. And we know that he could be the quarterback one overall during that fantasy football playoff stretch in weeks 15, 16, 17. So when it comes to Watson, it is very hard for me to come out here and give you one sentence, one little statement of exactly what you should be doing with him, because in reality, it is so nuanced and you need to make sure that you are going through and you are optimizing for the actual league format that you're playing in. Now, in regards of an Amari Cooper, I think will be a wide receiver that can be a low-end wide receiver 3, with Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, it's going to be a very tough situation. I would say if you're in that shallow redraft format that we just discussed, if you can only play 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, like hell, you're never going to be able to start Amari Cooper in that format, which is why that format just freaking sucks. You need to add a couple flex spots. Please add a couple flex spots to make your overall fantasy football experience more enjoyable. I will tell you, I will promise you, it doesn't matter what league format that you're playing in right now. If you go through, if you add 1 to 2 flex spots, I promise you, you are going to enjoy fantasy football more. Fantasy football will be more fun. More wide receivers will matter. Add a couple flex spots and at the same time, add a couple roster spots overall. But that's besides the point. In that shallow format, it's going to be very hard to go out there and aggressively draft Amari Cooper, because in a format that shallow, through the first 11 weeks, Amari Cooper isn't necessarily going to be someone we can be excited to go through and plug and play. If you can only start 3 wide receivers, he's going to be comparable to those guys at the very top end of your bench. And it's almost going to be right back to looking at that situation where, from an expected value standpoint, you may be better off to kind of swing for the fences for a wide receiver in that range and see what you have at the beginning portion of the season. Because I think that while, yes, we can sit here and we can say, oh, the Amari Cooper owner who drafts him, they're never going to trade him for a lower price during the season, because obviously if you draft Amari Cooper now, you should understand you're drafting him for the final 6 weeks. You're drafting him for the fantasy football playoffs. We should expect that he's not going to be productive at the beginning portion of the year. But the issue with fantasy football players, and we see this right now where people are all trying to optimize for week 1. Everybody's worried about week 1 situations. People were drafting Devin Singletary rounds before James Cook is the perfect example. But people get so focused in on what's right in front of them when we're in week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, where they're looking at the raw points per game that they're going to be getting from an Amari Cooper. They're going to be looking at him as a player that they can't start. And that may be the time that you can actually go through and you can trade for Amari Cooper. And I know it shouldn't be that easy. It shouldn't. But fantasy football managers are so short-sighted. At the time of the draft, everybody wants to think about the entire season. Once we get to weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, people are thinking about the points that they're getting in their starting lineups. So Amari Cooper in a casual, shallow redraft format as well, is also going to be someone that I'm not that excited about. Now, if you're playing in a best ball tournament on Underdog where we need to be optimizing for weeks 15, 16, 17, hell, there I'll probably be very excited to go through and draft someone like an Amari. But I think at this point, we're going to go, and while I usually love taking quarterback in this range, usually my plan A is to go Lamar Jackson and Darren Waller. If we have like Jerry Jeudy, who we have to take because we haven't drafted a single wide receiver through the first 3 rounds here, I will pivot. I'll take Jerry Jeudy at pick 48. And I love Lamar Jackson. Don't get me wrong. I love having the elite level quarterback. But we are going to make an adjustment here. And the reason for this is if we go over and look at what you had from that team at pick 10, they end up getting Travis Kelce at 15, double dipping with Kyle Pitts at 34. So I think with them going through and taking 2 elite level tight ends, trying the bully tight end strategy, it's going to make it where if I can get Darren Waller at the beginning of the 5th round here, I think we should go ahead. I think we should take Darren Waller and not really even think about it. But let me then move on to Nick Chubb. Here with Nick Chubb, I think he's going to be fine regardless. I'm so tired of talking about this as well because I pretty much copy and paste the same sentence in every draft that I say about Nick Chubb. He went from being the worst value in fantasy football last year when you were taking him at the end of the 1st round to now someone that I am drafting in almost every single league here at the beginning of the 3rd. I mean, hell, if they have Jacoby Brissett, they're going to be extremely run heavy, pounded up the middle with Nick Chubb over and over and over again. When they have Deshaun Watson, maybe they're not going to be as run heavy, but they'll have more trips to the red zone. Any way you cut it, I'm honestly very excited about Nick Chubb at this price point. We've said it for years now, and I used to say it as a dig. I used to say it to make fun of the man. But now, when he's at the beginning of the 3rd round, I'm completely fine saying it. Nick Chubb is the most talented committee running back in the NFL. Should you pay a 1st-round price tag for that player, even if he's running behind an elite offensive line? No. But like I've always said, Nick Chubb, arguably the best pure runner, best pure rusher. I guess we can say that's Jonathan Taylor when we have him here at the 101. But from a talent perspective, and yes, he's in the committee, so we're going to be getting that discount at the beginning of the 3rd round, and I'm going to be fine taking that discount. Love Jerry Jeudy here at 48. Jerry Jeudy, I have his ranked as like wide receiver 17. I just think that he will be the wide receiver 1 or co-wide receiver 1 with Courtland Sutton. We have them ranked back-to-back. I have Jerry Jeudy 17, Courtland Sutton 18, or maybe them 18 and 19. It doesn't really matter. And this should be a very good Denver Broncos passing offense. So I really like what we're able to do here so far through the first 5 rounds of this draft. Okay, so we have some question. Colin says, just won $150 on Underdog Pick'ems. Did Underdog have like a special Pick'em line tonight? They told me a while ago that they were going to get everybody who used promo code FLOCK a special Pick'em, but I've been so busy that I haven't even been able to check. Yeah, I guess that's what... Okay. Derek coming out says, let's drop a like. Also, Mason, in Best Ball Mania 3, I have pick 8. I went Diggs, Swift, Fournette, and Pitt. Okay, that's just beautiful. I'm assuming you have some rogue drafters in there, letting Leonard Fournette fall to you at pick 32, and then also getting Kyle Pitts at pick 41. Oh, that is beautiful, my man. I am very jealous of that. And also, if you want another draft after this one, go down there, drop a like in this live stream. If this live stream gets 350 likes, I will be happy to go through and get y'all another draft going. Maybe we'll do a high stakes draft. I'm feeling it tonight, guys. I don't think that high stakes underdog contest isn't going to be open much longer. So I do want to continue to try to fire in one of those every single night when we can. And then Dog says, Mason, I bought the draft guide on Flock Fantasy when it first came out. How do I see the updated version? Okay, if y'all don't know, we updated the fantasy football draft guide today. So what you need to do, if you purchased that draft guide on flockfantasy.com, all you do is go into flockfantasy.com, re-sign in, and then go to download that draft guide. Of course, it's going to be no additional charge. Just download the one that it looks like you already downloaded. When you re-download it, it'll be the updated version with the updated rankings. And if you got that draft guide through Underdog Fantasy, say you made that Underdog Fantasy account with the link in the description, link in the live chat, and used promo code FLOCK and made a $10 deposit, and say you got the draft guide a month ago, all you need to do is send me an email with the email address you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with, a message saying, hey, Mason, I want the updated fantasy football draft guide. The email I signed up for Underdog with is johnny1234@gmail.com. And then I'll be super happy to personally go and send you that draft guide as well. But we had to move Ronald Jones down the draft guide a bit, which, as someone who's drafted a decent amount of the Kansas City Chiefs running backs here, like, guys, just looking at this Chiefs offense, y'all know I've wanted to be a buyer, especially when we're getting these players at a discount. I have a decent amount of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but at the same time, I have a decent amount of Rojo as well. So I will admit, very rarely am I rooting against the player, and it's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to do. You feel like a crappy person. And if you ever want to root for someone, you probably want to root for Isaiah Pacheco, who's overcome the odds and looking like he's going to beat out Rojo during camp. And you don't want to be rooting for the guy that has been around for a while, was a great guy a great prospect coming out of high school, yada, yada. You probably want to be rooting for Isaiah Pacheco. Now, personally, I don't want to say it out loud. But if Isaiah Pacheco comes out and earns the starting job for the Kansas City Chiefs, I will lose money this year. It would be very difficult when I have a total of $0 invested into Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe I've drafted him in one draft total versus having a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 8th round, buying the dip on Ronald Jones just to watch that continue to dip and dip and dip and dip. We're not going to be buried if Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes out and is the starting running back. In that scenario, we'll be perfectly fine. It just can't be Pacheco. It just can't. It can't. Okay. So now we're going to take Amari Cooper here at pick 73. I'm in here with Amari Cooper, last wide receiver in this tier for me. I understand Allen Lazard, wide receiver 1 in Green Bay on paper, but I still think that the on-paper projection is going to be very fragile. I'm very hesitant to just go out here and act like this is a guaranteed thing that Allen Lazard is going to be the wide receiver 1. And keep in mind, this is going to be that private draft on Underdog Fantasy, so this doesn't have that fantasy football playoff format where we need to optimize for weeks 15, 16, 17. Rather, what we need to be looking for here is just production throughout the entire season. So if we're not going to have the first 6 weeks from a DeAndre Hopkins, it does almost make him undraftable in this format. So Joe Burrow goes off the board here at pick 76. I mean, with this Burrow selection, I understand it. I mean, the reason we decide to go ahead and take a Trey Lance instead, even though I don't feel that good about it. I wish I could be the guy coming out screaming that Trey Lance is going to smash like we did last year, especially in Dynasty. I wish I could do that again. But regardless, the reason I take Lance here over Burrow is because we don't have Chase, and at the same time, we don't have Higgins. So if I have one of those 2 wide receivers, I'm going to be taking Burrow over Lance. And when we don't, we'll take Lance, because Lance, you're betting on the rushing upside, not necessarily the passing volume. So I think it will be an easy way to go out there and diversify. And I don't want to make an argument for Lance. Y'all have heard that argument for the past 2 years from me. I mean, it's old news that Trey Lance has a crap ton of upside and is in a fantastic situation. But now after we take Amari Cooper, you have Lazard, DeAndre Hopkins, Joe Burrow, Tony Pollard, Devonta Smith. I will say, I love this team from the 2 spot. Like, look at what they've done so far. A very interesting 0 RB build. Now, what I will say is, if we're looking at wide receivers in the same tier, like an Allen Lazard or a Devonta Smith, personally, I prefer Smith, if I'm going to be completely honest. But even if you take my personal preference away from it, I think we can agree that these players are in the same tier. And that's how we need to be using our stacks. That's how we need to be trying to find correlation in our starting lineup. We don't need to go through and we don't need to reach rounds on said wide receiver X. Like, just because you take, say, a Justin Herbert at pick 42, you don't want to be reaching 24 picks for Joshua Palmer past his ADP because you need to get that stack in there with Los Angeles. No, if you do that, you're going to be sacrificing upside. However, if you're at that spot where you got Jalen Hurts at pick 71, so you are committed to investing into that Philadelphia Eagles offense, what I probably would do is I probably would go ahead and take Smith over Allen Lazard. And I don't think it's even an argument in the other way either. Like, I think it's a pick that you have to make in favor of Devonta Smith, even if you're not the biggest fan of stacking. When you're looking at players in that same tier, it's almost like you just have to do it here. Okay. Benjamin says, not a fan of Lance and Cooper at the turn. Let me know. What would you have done at the turn there if you did not go with a Lance and Amari Cooper? Like I said, DeAndre Hopkins, in my opinion, not draftable in this format because it's cumulative scoring. Points in weeks 1, 2, 3 matter just as much as points in weeks 15, 16, 17. So in this format, I can't draft DeAndre Hopkins. We needed a wide receiver and a quarterback, in my opinion. We start the draft off with Jonathan Taylor, Leonard Fournette, Nick Chubb. So I'm never going to be reaching on a running back there at pick 73 or 72. Like I said, with Lance and Burrow, they're going to be in the same tier for me. I think we break it down when we have Higgins or when we had Chase, we decide to go Joe Burrow. When we don't have either, we decide to go Trey Lance. So let me know, what would you have done? Okay. Gregory says Drake London, baby. Okay, my man. Drake London goes off the board there, pick 70. If I had the option to go Drake London over Amari Cooper, I would. I mean, we talked about this weeks ago. Drake London's in my top 10 wide receivers drafted. Now, we used to be able to get him at the beginning to the middle portion of the 7th round. Now you're never seeing him fall there anymore. So it seems like I haven't been drafting as much of him, if I'm going to be honest with you. But Miles Sanders, oh dear God, are we getting a bad report coming out of Miles Sanders? Again, not practicing. Hasn't practiced since last Friday's 24-21 preseason loss to the Jets, in which he got 2 passes for 20 yards while playing 1 drive with the first-team offense. Okay. We spent $250 in a draft to take Miles Sanders yesterday. Oh, dear God. Dear God. And I know a lot of people are telling me to get Derek Carr later. Teresa, and also I know Teresa said it. I think one other person said it as well. The issue with me, quote unquote, taking Derek Carr later is if you look at Carr's ADP, he has an ADP of 108. I'm not going to be taking Derek Carr here at 96 or 97 over these options. Like, I think, honestly, let's read what we have with Bergs. Partial practice. So we've talked about this before, but in leagues where we need to optimize for weeks 15, 16, 17, like your regular fantasy football league where you have the fantasy football playoffs, I'm easily going Treylon Burks here. But because it's just going to be who could score the most points starting week 1, we are going to take the pair of wide receivers. But if we're looking at Derek Carr, like I was saying, Derek Carr has an ADP of 108. And the reason for this is usually you have that team that took Devontae Adams at 12. They're always going Derek Carr here at the 9-10 turn. So if Derek Carr were to make it back to us and pick 120, trust me, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Derek Carr. For me to reach on him in the 9th, honestly, I do think it seems a little bit aggressive. But I will take Carr for y'all. I will take Carr. If he falls. If he falls. Okay, let me move this over. Zach says your team isn't making weeks 15, 16, 17. My friend, I don't know if you've heard me not say this a million times by now. We don't have the fantasy football playoffs in this league. I don't care if my team's not putting up a great stat line in weeks 15, 16, 17. As long as we have guys out there that can put up points starting week 1. Now, the next draft, if we can get into a high-stakes draft after this one, then we could go ahead. We could optimize for that final 3-week stretch. And then you could come tell me that I'm not going to make the fantasy football playoffs when we actually have the fantasy football playoffs. Noah coming out says, I'm going heavy on the Bills stack this game. Okay, let's go through. Let's check out Noah's draft so far. So Noah here, Diggs in the 1st, Javonte in the 2nd, Josh Allen there in the 3rd. Brings it back with Gabriel Davis in the 4th. Now, personally, I haven't been doing this at all, but it's hard for me to ever come out here and take a strong stance and say, oh, when you take Josh Allen in the 3rd, you can't take Gabriel Davis in the 4th. Because in reality, every single smart person on the planet is doing this. Every single smart person on the planet, when they take Josh Allen, they are going through, they're taking Gabriel Davis here. I mean, this is where Gabriel Davis's ADP is. Now, personally, it's just so damn hard for me to ever go through and think about taking him over someone like Deontay Johnson. But Metcalf there in the 5th, A.J. Dillon in the 6th, Devonta Smith in the 7th. I really like that 7th round value with Smith. I like Rashad Penny a lot more in this format than I would in that league where we need to optimize for the fantasy football playoff stretch. And then still getting Kenneth Walker on the way back around at 102 regardless. Very interesting draft so far. Okay. So let's move this down. Dog says, don't see the option to re-download. If you have any issues, my friend, just email me. If you have any issues with anything, just email me. I'd be happy to get it sorted out for you. Okay, so Matthew Stafford goes at 106. So this would be about where we assume that Derek Carr goes, right here at the 9-10 turn. To be completely honest with you, I haven't been drafting a lot of Derek Carr in this range just because it seems like you are drafting him close to his ceiling. Oh my gosh. Zach out here taking Jalen Tolbert. Oh, it's so hard for me to see that. Literally, it physically pains me. Zach is a very good drafter, guys. If y'all don't know, Zach is a very sharp drafter, but a lot of smart drafters are doing it because the situation's so strong in Dallas. At the end of the day, sometimes I just look at it saying, and I'll say, like, I want the most talented player. I want the best guy in the room. And that guy's going to be Garrett Wilson for me, 100%. It's not even a thought compared to Jalen Tolbert, even if Tolbert's in about the best situation you could find. Now, Kaepernick coming out says, Tony, gobbling up the Tony exposure. I can get it all in all formats. Let me know the thought process. I will say, from a per play standpoint, Tony was dominant with his yards per route run, his targets per route run. I mean, he looked fantastic. Obviously, a per game standpoint is going to be unfair when he's leaving games early due to getting kicked out or due to just injuries that obviously suck. 189 yards against the Dallas Cowboys. So I understand why you would want to go and get some Kadarius Toney, especially if you think that Kenny Golladay is on the way out here. Okay, Jacob says you should do rookie rankings sometime. Okay, so if y'all don't know, we have the #1 Dynasty Fantasy Football channel on YouTube. That's honestly like my #1 love is Dynasty Fantasy Football. I've been playing Dynasty since 2014. And I just love covering it. I love playing it. That's what this channel started out as. And I uploaded our top 24 updated rookie rankings on that Dynasty channel this morning. So if you want to find it, just type in Dynasty Football Flock or top 24 rookie rankings and tiers. I'm sure it'll be the first video that pops up. Juror coming out says, would you trade J.K. Dobbins and Keenan Allen for Christian McCaffrey? 100%. Doesn't matter if it's a Dynasty league. Doesn't matter if it's shallow redraft format, especially if it's a shallow redraft format. You just want to go out of your way. You want to get the best player in the deal. That makes so much sense. Dylan says, Dynasty Superflex, PPR, Leonard Fournette, Drake London, or Travis Etienne, and a 2023 first. I think you probably go Travis Etienne in the 2023 first, especially if you're not a contending team. It's probably a good price to get out of Leonard Fournette at. Okay. So Garrett Wilson goes 115. Alex says, I'd love to see an update on the rookie stuff, though, since it's the middle of the preseason. My friend, look up Dynasty Football Flock on YouTube, and you'll find a 20-plus minute video of me today going out there and talking about those rookies. Okay, so let's swing this back around. And I did see this. Julio Jones and Russell Gage, back-to-back now in ADP. Very surprising. I mean, I wonder if George Pickens ends up sneaking his way here at the 10-11 turn. Melvin Gordon off the board, 117. Not going to lie to you, Melvin Gordon was the guy that we were going to be looking at, despite us probably needing another wide receiver. Okay, so Gliz on the clock. They go Kirk Cousins. I'm assuming that they decided to take a Minnesota Viking earlier. No, they don't even have a Viking. They don't have Jefferson or Adam Thielen. Don't really understand why they take Kirk Cousins here over Aaron Rodgers. We're going to take Aaron Rodgers. Patrick Surtain here can't take another quarterback. He already has Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, so I think he's going to be done at the position. So yeah, he goes George Pickens. So we're going to go back-to-back with the combination of Aaron Rodgers. And do we go Julio? Let's think through this. Who's going to be on the way back around for us? Yeah, we'd probably go Julio Jones here. I mean, with Julio, obviously, we do have a wide range of outcomes. We don't exactly know how many games we are going to be getting from Julio Jones this upcoming season, but as it stands, we have Jonathan Taylor, Leonard Fournette, and Nick Chubb at running back, so we are going to have to just take some wide receivers when we get the chance. I mean, we're not planning on any of these running backs going down. I mean, if one of these running backs were to get hurt, then we're probably not going to be competitive regardless. So to recap this team, at running back, we have Taylor, Leonard Fournette, Nick Chubb. At tight end, we have Darren Waller. Quarterback, we have Trey Lance and Aaron Rodgers. And we are weak at wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Robert Woods, and Julio Jones. So a very, very, very bad wide receiver core. But at the same time, I mean, of course it's going to be bad when we just have such a strong spot at every other position. But John coming out says, should I trade Josh Jacobs and Breece Hall for Javonte Williams? If it's a shallow redraft format, yes. If it's a dynasty league, no. Or if it's a deep redraft format, I'd say no as well. But shallow, yes. And when I say shallow, I mean you start one quarterback, two running backs, two receivers, 1 to 2 flex spots, and a tight end. Okay, Joshua Palmer off the board here, pick 126 by Noah. And at this point, I don't exactly know what we want to see. Maybe we want to see just some quarterbacks go off the board and we can call it a day. Because if we get some quarterbacks off the board, then that means we are going to inherently just get running back and wide receiver value pushed back down to us. We're not wanting to take a third quarterback here when we take the combo of Aaron Rodgers and Trey Lance. Y'all know a Green Bay Packers wide receiver that I would be excited about getting on the way back around. Derek says, Mason, you have Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Who else do you need? Okay, Derek, I know you're a Chiefs fan. Give me your opinion on the Chiefs wide receiver core this year. I know that this is going to be a very bold take, and I've drafted this way. I have drafted this way. I have literally, outside of Isaiah Pacheco and Juju Smith-Schuster, I am overweight on every single Kansas City Chiefs player. Not looking good right now on Rojo. Just hopefully Isaiah Pacheco is not the starting running back here and buries us. But I think the Kansas City Chiefs this year are going to be better than they were last. Yes, despite not having Tyreek Hill, I think if you're looking at the entire offensive line returning, I think if you're looking at the improved depth with the wide receiver core, moving on from Byron Pringle, DeMarcus Robinson, replacing them with Sky Moore and Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, yes, you're getting the downgrade from Tyreek to Marcus Valdes-Scantling or Nicole Hardman, whoever you think's playing that role, but able to make additions to the defense. I think on the whole, the Kansas City Chiefs are a better team this year than they were last. Derek says Sky Moore's the one he's most you're not excited about. Oh, okay. Very interesting there. Very interesting. Okay, Alexander asking us to rate Team 8. Of course, Alexander, thank you so much for coming out and drafting with us. Let's go through. Let's look at Team 8. Starting off bold with Joe Mixon here at 8. Significantly ahead of ADP. Hell, we've talked about this for a very long time. I like Mixon in that second tier, guys, but in reality, it just comes down to whoever you want. Personal preference. Once you have Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey off the board, when you're looking at that second tier of running backs, I would draw that second tier out as Eckler, Mixon, Henry, Dalvin, Najee Harris. Whatever order you want those guys. I think if you're trying to sneak up a Barkley and Aaron Jones, a DeAndre Swift, a Kamara, or Javonte Williams into that group, that's where I would actually have an argument for you. But if you're just getting any one of those, it's going to be fine. DeAndre Swift, 17. Ezekiel Elliott, 32. I'm not a massive fan of the Ezekiel Elliott selection in a league where you have to start 3 wide receivers. I think here instead I'd probably go DJ Moore. Patrick Mahomes, 41. I mean, here with Mahomes, he is one of my most drafted players on Underdog, but usually because we're getting him in the middle of the 5th. I mean, if I'm fine with the middle of the 5th value, I guess I got to be fine here, even though I probably would have gone with like a Terry McLaurin or something when you didn't have a wide receiver up until this point. Brandon Cooks, pick 56. Adam Thielen, 65. TJ Hawkinson going 80. In a lot of these drafts, you can get TJ Hawkinson on the way back around, but I'm assuming that you wanted to set yourself up with that Patrick Mahomes, Sky Moore selection. Damian Harris off the board, 104. Chase Claypool, 113. Michael Gallup, 128. And Nicole Hardman there to get that double stack. Okay, so I am really hoping that Nicole Hardman is actually good to go. Okay, so please, if you know this, in the chat, clarify with me. Okay, so the report came out that the groin injury that we were monitoring, not as serious as people were worrying it was. Sounded like it was just spasms. And it said it wasn't a serious injury, but nobody defined what the timetable was. Are we assuming Nicole Hardman's 100% good to go week 1? Are we assuming that he is 100% good to go week 1? Because we did take Nicole Hardman in that $1,000 draft that we covered earlier today. We did pass on Sky Moore as well. So it is something that I definitely want to continue to monitor. And here I think Jacoby Myers is going to be a selection. And I honestly think we're going to reach a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and get Michael Carter here. I like Michael Carter in this format because I do think he is going to have a role on a week-to-week basis and upside for more if you were to get an injury to Breece Hall in this New York Jets offense. But I will say that once we see Breece Hall fully emerge as that running back 1 here, I mean, Michael Carter will be phased out to just be a handcuff running back. Okay. So Derek says he's fine. Okay, that's what I assumed. I have a decent amount of Nicole Hardman just because we've been drafting so much around 5 Patrick Mahomes that honestly, it worried me a ton when we got that report that he was getting carted off. Like, I didn't even see it on Twitter or anything. Nobody texted me about it. Usually that's how I get my news, to be completely honest, is if any news comes out, I don't have ESPN on my phone. I don't have any alerts. I just start getting text. I literally just start getting text. Like, oh, did you see this? I'm like, oh, crap. Looks like I got to run and live stream. But as soon as I started getting messages about Hardman, I got very worried. Very, very, very worried. Especially when we had him in that $1,000 draft. But real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. At this live stream, it's 40 more likes. We are going to fire up another draft after this one. Maybe a high-stakes draft. Maybe a private $3 draft. We'll definitely try to get a couple drafts going tonight. Of course, if y'all just are enjoying these, showing some support, I'll be happy to go through. I'll be happy to get as many going as possible. Maybe we can do a decent amount of private drafts as well as a high-stakes draft. Frank says, Juju, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Nicole Hardman are very underwhelming to me. I would agree. Like, if Juju, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Nicole Hardman were playing with the New York Jets, I would be treating them like Corey Davis. I would not look at them for a single second. But when you're going to be attached to Patrick Mahomes, when you are going to have that guaranteed quarterback play, and at the same time, it's not like we're having to pay that. I mean, I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to take some stray shots. We're just going to keep it on the Kansas City Chiefs. I think you're getting fair price points on all those players. And even if the target shares distributed evenly from a volatility standpoint on Underdog at their prices, I think it's going to make a lot of sense. I'm still projecting the Kansas City Chiefs to be a top 3 offense this year. I think they may have to be more pass happy given the division they're playing in now. Okay. So we have KJ Hamler going off the board here. Jarvis Landry, KJ Osborne as well. Okay, so Resign Odell says, how do we get in these drafts? Just a link in the live chat. Okay, so step A is obviously have an Underdog fantasy account. So if you're already drafting on Underdog fantasy, ignore this. But if you're not, just go to the link that says join our next draft here. It'll take you to Underdog, create an account, deposit $10. They'll match it. Deposit, so you have $20 in your account, and then we fire up a lot of $3 drafts, a lot of $5 private drafts that you're able to get in. And when you also deposit that $10, you do get our 2022 fantasy football rankings and our 2022 fantasy football draft guide when you use promo code FLOCK. But beyond that, once you already have your account set up, so for those private drafts, I'm going to go through, I'm going to create that private draft, whether it's a $3 draft, and then I'll send a separate link out in the live chat, and I'll say, I'm doing this right now. Look at the live chat right now, and it will say $3 draft here, and it'll have a little link. Then you click that link. Keep in mind, if you don't have an Underdog fantasy account already, you're going to be way too late. Those things fill up in like 1 to 2 seconds. You're not going to have time to set up your account. So set it up now. Make sure you're good to go. We do this every single night, so you should be fine. And if we're going to get into like a high stakes public draft, we're not setting up any high stakes private drafts, but if we're going to be drafting the public lobby in a high stakes league, then you would just go join that public lobby at the same time that I do. Okay, so we have Alec Pierce off the board here, 158. Isaiah McKenzie, 157. Matt Ryan. So we still need wide receivers with this build. I want to say that we probably want 1 to 2 more tight ends, depending on the value that we get at the position. We probably want to be able to come away with an extra running back as well. But Jackson coming out says, thoughts on the Superflex team. We got Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. Okay, obviously. You got Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. I don't know what your league mates were doing. Javonte Williams, Josh Jacobs, Jerry Jeudy, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, and Kyle Pitts. If this is a 10-team league, great draft. If this is a 12-team draft, I'm assuming you're playing with children. If this is like an 8-team league, whatever, it's an 8-team league. I don't know how many teams are here. Overall, very strong roster. Very strong roster. I have a sneaky suspicion, though, that you're playing in an 8-team league. Okay. So we have David Njoku, Daniel Jones going off the board here. I would have been interested in taking a David Njoku if you would have fallen to us. A couple of these other wide receivers are fine. A couple of these tight ends are fine. A couple of these running backs are fine. I'm honestly chilling right now with the options that we're going to have here. Pick 168, 169. Dan coming out, happy to see you, my friend, says, what's good, Mason? With the Watson news, are you still looking to take him for the playoff push or just avoiding altogether? Talked about this at the beginning of the live stream, but essentially, if you're going to be playing in a casual redraft format, no reason to be drafting Deshaun Watson if you have to burn that roster spot through the first 11 weeks. If you're going to be playing in a deep league where you can afford to burn that roster spot, or if you're playing in like an Underdog fantasy tournament where we need to prioritize production for weeks 15, 16, 17, then I am still taking him for that playoff push. Now, this is not going to be a league with the fantasy football playoffs, however, so I wouldn't even take Deshaun Watson in the 18th round if he made it here. Okay. So let's move this over. I'm assuming that we are going to get... Okay, I don't want to say too much. Okay, Robbie Anderson goes. Okay, Robbie was going to be one of the guys we were looking at. I think we have an easy pick. I'm just going to go with Tyler Higbee and Van Jefferson here. Get some Los Angeles Rams in this offense. And real quick, just to let y'all know, I am sitting in the $250 draft lobby. There are 6 spots available. Okay, so I am sitting in that $250 draft lobby. If you want to come draft, if you want to show us what you got, so this is your chance. If you see us have horrible drafts all day and you're very quick to tell us in the comment section how much you hate our drafts, I got great news for you. I'm putting my money more in my mouth this. Come take it. And you can do it on live stream. You can embarrass me while you do it as well. Okay. Jayan says Mason Hudson Card is rumored to be the starter and the fan base is losing their minds. I mean, what? Would he be the starter for the first 1 to 2 weeks, then they switch it over? At least that's what I would assume. But we have Noah Fant off the board here, 171. I do think Noah Fant's about the last guy in this tier, if I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, I actually made a tier ranking list for everybody coming out tomorrow on the channel. Now, I did it a little bit different. Instead of like doing top 12, top 15, I just went through the top 17 guys because in reality, in a casual fantasy football format, I don't think you need to draft anybody outside the top 17 tight ends. Obviously here on Underdog, you're going to have to go deeper. So maybe that's not going to help you in rounds 15, 16, 17, 18, but I want to be making those videos for the people in the casual fantasy football leagues. And then obviously y'all are getting my deep thoughts on players in these deep leagues, especially the high stakes ones that we are firing into. Okay. So now we have Ryan Tannehill, Mac Jones off the board, 173, 174. So let's check back in on Noah. Let's see what he's done so far. So Noah's going to be drafting at pick 6. He has at wide receiver Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, DK Metcalf, Devonta Smith. Guys, I know it's a horrible situation. Trust me, I get it. But at the same time, this Garrett Wilson value is legitimately just absurd. Like, to look at the other wide receivers going before Garrett Wilson, I know he's probably the wide receiver 2 for the New York Jets. And I wish literally at this price point, I had 25% Garrett Wilson. Like, I wish I could go through and just make him my most drafted player. I don't know why he's not. I need to go out of my way. I need to start drafting as much Garrett Wilson here as I can. Because yes, it's a horrible situation, but there's nobody in the past 3 rounds here that has the talent that Wilson does. Now, Joshua Palmer, 126. Freiermuth, 139. Really like the Freiermuth selection. Herbert, 150. David Njoku here and Tannehill. Really like the team overall. I know we went on a little bit of a tangent there with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's just a damn good wide receiver. Okay. So, Raheem Mostert off the board, 180. J.D. McKissic, 181. There was another draft that we were in, I believe, last night on the live stream. Now that we don't have any puppy drafts or Pomeranian or anything, I've already maxed out Best Ball Mania. Y'all know I used to draft I used to be in these Underdog drafts 100% of the time. Like 100% of my waking hours, I was in these Underdog drafts. But now that I can't draft in Best Ball Mania anymore, I really, over the past 3 days, have only drafted on the live stream, which is a very weird feeling, but it is what it is. And I think that last draft we had was on the live stream last night where we had Ronald Jones fall into us like in the 18th round. And I was like, what else am I supposed to do? Yes, looks like he's getting cut, but what if he doesn't? I don't know. Guys, in the chat right now, if you had to assign a probability to Ronald Jones getting cut, what would that probability be? 75%? 80%, 85%, 100%. What would you be looking at? Gardner Minshew coming out. Thank you, my friend. Of course, longtime member of the Flock says, thoughts in a 16-team PPR format. Kyler Wentz, Jacobs, Edmonds, James Cook, Tyler Algier, Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Darnell Mooney, Tyler Boyd, Van Jefferson, George Pickens, Cole Kmet, and Austin Hooper. On the surface, when you read this team out loud, sounds like trash. If you just read it out loud, to be completely honest with you, it sounds like trash. But the reason for that is it's a 16-team league. All teams are going to be significantly worse. You have an elite level quarterback. You have a wide receiver that's probably a top 12 receiver. You have you have a top 1 receiver with Justin Jefferson, another top 12 wide receiver with T. Higgins, possibly a borderline top 16 wide receiver with Darnell Mooney. So in this format, you potentially have 3 wide receiver ones. You have running backs with upside. Great team, my friend. Like I said, on the surface, it looks very bad, but that's just because it's a 16-team league. Okay, it looks like a lot of people are saying 75, 75, 73, 100, 45, 50, 55, 25, 50, 45, 60, 55. So it looks like a lot of people are putting it around 50%. So I honestly was maybe going to take him here. But now that that's not going to be an option for us, honestly, instead, I think that we probably just go ahead, lock ourselves into AJ Green. I actually like Green in this format in particular because you're going to be looking at a player that, while I don't love him in a regular fantasy football league where we have that fantasy football playoff stretch we need to be optimizing for in weeks 15, 16, 17. Here, I mean, hell, if he can go through and he can give us usable weeks at the very beginning of the season, we are going to be completely fine with that. And that $250 big dog lobby that we are currently sitting in right now on Underdog Fantasy has 3 spots open. So if you're wanting to draft in that $250 league with us, there are 3 spots on Underdog Fantasy. You can click the link in the live chat. It will take you directly to the lobby on Underdog, and it's the $250 buy-in draft. Honestly, if it has only 3 spots available to it, we probably are going to sit in this draft room and not hop into just another private draft right away. Yeah, now it only has 2 spots, so this should fill relatively quickly. Let's look at the end of this draft, and then once that other one fills, we'll just dive right into that one. Mont says, at my new job, my coworkers are in an 18-team fantasy football league. Guys, I wish I knew people. I wish I knew enough people in real life that loved fantasy football that I could get an 18-person fantasy football league going. Like in reality, in real life, the amount of people that I know that really like fantasy football and would be willing to play with me because, I mean, obviously, fantasy football is very random. You have random injuries, blah, blah, blah. But whenever I have played with my friends, I've just gone full-blown try-hard mode, spamming them with trade offers until someone accepts a bad one and creating a juggernaut team that I probably gave them a very bad experience when we probably beat them down. So even if I explain to them that even though I have a YouTube channel, y'all still have a very good chance of beating me, nobody wants to play with me. It is a tough life. But hell, we have 25 Dynasty leagues we play in with members of the flock. So I think we're sitting pretty. And obviously we have like 405. I mean, at this point we have 500, 600 underdog drafts. Okay, so after we take Darrell Williams, AJ Green, you have Goff, Will Fuller, Kendrick Bourne, Jameson Crowder, Tyquan Thornton, Zach Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Like I said, in this format in particular where you don't have the fantasy football playoffs, Watson's not going to be draftable for me. I can't take Watson. Didn't even matter if he lasted until 216. Now it looks like we are filling that $250 draft. So let me queue up some tight ends here. And then after we queue up these players, we will run into that $250 draft lobby. What pick did we just get? Oh, dear God. We got pick 12, ladies and gentlemen. We got pick 12. We'll try to make it work. I don't exactly know how this is going to be. But regardless, it will be exciting to say the least. And let me just finish this queue. Okay, let's run over to this $250 draft here. Okay, picking at 12. Let's see who else we're going to be drafting with. Okay, Derek's in this draft. Scorpion's in this draft. We recognize that name. Golf for Life is out here. Golf for Life is with us in pretty much every high-stakes draft that we join. Also a member of the flock watching this live stream all the time. And then beyond that, we have MP4 for MVP. Chi-Town True's a part of the flock as well. So we have a decent amount of members of the flock here. I think Chase 79 is, yeah, this is going to be a really tough draft room. This is going to be a really tough draft room, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully we can make it work at pick 12. Hopefully we have our guy Mixon making it to us. If not, we'll have to make some plays. And let's be on the lookout for some crazy drafters here. We have Adam saying, thoughts on Henry, Barkley, Hall, Etienne for the first 4 rounds in a PPR format. Shallow, casual fantasy football league. Hell, I'm fine. Go get your running backs. You'll be able to find wide receivers off the waivers. I'll say if you're playing here on Underdog, probably going to be a little bit tougher to get away with when you have to start 3 wide receivers. You have the flex spot as well, so these guys are going to get pushed up. Gardner Minshew says, I know it's bad. It's so tough with 16 teams. No, it's good for a 16-team league. But I'm just saying on the surface, like if I read that message out loud where we're used to seeing people in their 10 to 12 team leagues, sounds bad on the surface, but when you walk through and look at the different cutoffs for what you'd expect in a 16 team league, it is pretty strong. But Derek decides to go Jamar Chase here, pick 5. Not too much of a surprise. I mean, I don't even think we can talk about it. Austin Eckler, pick 6. So it looks like this is a pretty cookie cutter draft so far where we haven't had anybody really going out of their way to mix up this board. Okay. Benjamin says, if you had first choice for draft position, where would you draft? If we were drafting on Underdog, my first spot would be either where Derek's at pick 5, pick 4, or pick 3. If I'm going to be in a casual fantasy football league, like the drafts that the majority of y'all are going to be in, give me pick 1 or 2. Give me Taylor. Give me a CMC. I can find wide receiver value later. But Stephon Diggs off the board here, pick 7 for Golf for Life. Coaches on the clock at 8. Let's swing this back around. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Devontae Adams goes 8 here. So you are getting these wide receivers pushed up ever so slightly. I wonder if we get CeeDee Lamb pushed up. Lamb missed another practice today. Let's read this report. Lamb won't practice Thursday. Lamb, who's dealing with what Calvin Watkins of the Dallas Morning News describes as a cut toe. Okay, so CeeDee Lamb did he cut the toenail too short or something? Like, is this really something we need to be looking at? But this is what I'm talking about. Derrick Henry makes it to pick 11. We would have taken Derrick Henry. We've talked in depth about how in casual fantasy football leagues, people are taking Derrick Henry as the top 3 pick and hating me that I rank him at 8. And on Underdog, hell, I'd be completely fine taking Derrick Henry at his ADP. I actually like where Henry goes. Let's take Najee Harris. I have him ranked back to back with Joe Mixon in these drafts. But when we're looking at mixing up our exposures ever so slightly, and at the same time, if we're looking at combinations of players, I think that the combo of Najee Harris and Travis Kelce is going to be a little bit less rare. We already have a crap ton of Joe Mixon. And as I've already said, all these running backs here in tier 2 for me, they are going to be the same. They're going to be the same. Let's go Najee Harris, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, 15. Okay, so very interesting. I mean, now you have Joe Mixon possibly falling to, that team that takes Dalvin Cook. I wish I could go through. I wish I could trade my starts with him in a $250 draft to start off a Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon through the first 2 rounds. Oh, that is very, very exciting. I think you have to be excited about that. But real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, please just make sure you go fix your life. Get in the next draft with us. I mean, we're drafting here every single night on Underdog Fantasy because it's so much fun, and you can draft with us on the live stream. You can go draft in the public lobby. You can go draft with your friends, whatever you want. We don't only do $250 drafts. We are going to fire up some $3 drafts after this one. And when you go and sign up for Underdog and you make a minimum of a $10 deposit, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You also get our 2022 fantasy football rankings and almost a 300-page draft guide written by yours truly with a $10 deposit on Underdog, which they match. So it's essentially free. We're trying to get you our draft guide for free. Underdog supporting the channel, and they're allowing us to do it. So please take advantage of it. It helps us, helps you, and we have some fun. Come on, guys. But let's move this back around. After we take Kelce, really the picks that would be a surprise. Tyreek Hill at 15, obviously you're never seeing that. I think that team there at pick 10 does it just from a uniqueness standpoint. They want to have a unique roster build overall, and nobody is going to start with Saquon Barkley and Tyreek Hill through the first 2 rounds. When they have that red experience badge, I'm a little scared to go out there and say, oh, they have no idea what they're doing. No, they probably know exactly what they're doing. I personally love the Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon start through the first 2 rounds. Derek gets Deebo Samuel falling to him here at pick 20, which usually he's not here for the Jamar Chase team. Mark Andrews 21, T Higgins goes 22. So we do want wide receiver value making it back to us at the 3-4 turn. In reality, we don't need to be sitting here sweating it. We're more times than not going to be looking at wide receiver regardless. I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen as often now as it used to. You would have like a Kyle Pitts making it to you at the very end of the 3rd, and where you already drafted Travis Kelce. In those tournament drafts, I would take both guys. We would try to get a unique build out there. But considering we're in this draft with Derek, I would be very, very, very surprised if Kyle Pitts ended up making it to us. But here, Mike Evans falls to pick 26. This is the second time in the past few days that I've seen Mike Evans fall to the third. And just going through and like recapping that $1,000 draft that we did, and I made a video of it on the live stream. I'm sorry, with just the video this morning. That was a draft that started about like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And back then, like you had the team, you had someone from like the fantasy footballers in that draft. I picked 12, taking Mike Evans at 13. And that's not a slight to them because that's just where Mike Evans used to always go. I wasn't really drafting him there a lot, but you had Mike Evans going at that 1-2 turn in the majority of these leagues, which of course is very crazy looking back on now that you're getting him in the third. Sam coming out says, I have the 9th pick in a 12-team at PPR format. What running back should I target in those first 2 picks of mine? Thinking running back, wide receiver, tight end. Thanks for all you do. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I mean, we went through, I made that running back tier list and ranking video for you yesterday. What I would say is if we're going to be looking at running backs in that range, the tier we want is you're not going to have Taylor. You're not going to have CMC, obviously. You're probably not going to have Derrick Henry, assuming it's a casual format, like Derrick Henry falls to 11 here. You're not going to have Eckler, but if we could get one of the running backs in this tier, Eckler, Dalvin, Henry, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon. It's a tier 5 guys. They're all very comparable for me. Those are going to be the players we're targeting at 9. If those guys are off the board and you can have access to one of those top 3 wide receivers with Jefferson, Kupp, or Chase, you probably need to go with one of the receivers in that range. Riley coming out. Thank you, my friend. Saying, what up? Third live show. I mean, Riley's out here every single night. Riley's out here every night. Marshall says, crunchy or smooth peanut butter? Guys, I don't know why you are obsessed with this question. I answer this question so often. So back when I was a young child, back when I was a young boy, a spry 14, 15 years old, oh, I would get mad at my dad for buying the smooth peanut butter. It was crunchy all day, not even a question. Now that I've matured, now that I'm starting to go bald, as you can tell, we are more of a smooth peanut butter kind of guy. I hate to admit it. I've switched. I've gone to the dark side. I'm on the smooth train now. And let's look at this. Oh, my God. Connor's a pick we make no matter what. But beyond that, I don't know what to do. So let's think through this. I feel like we are in no man's land here, if I'm going to be completely honest, at the wide receiver position. If we're looking at wide receivers that we can have later on, the 5-6 turn, I don't even love the wide receivers in this range. We go Connor. Would it give us a unique build to also just take Travis Etienne here at the turn? I'm worried about James Robinson potentially having the red zone role. F it. Let's go Travis Etienne. Let's try to make a team that not many people have drafted before. I think that this is a build that is going to be unique. Not many people are getting these players here at the turn together specifically. And maybe from the draft we did yesterday where we went 0 RB, we can go 0 wide receiver through the first 4 rounds, have a couple unique chances to sneak into that tournament setup and have some upside. But once we start with these 3 running backs here and looking at this, I'm not a massive fan of this. Oh, dear God. We are praying that wide receivers make it back to us at a value. Like seeing these 3 wide receivers go off the board here is not going to be great for us. We want to see some of these running backs, like get a Breece Hall, get an Ezekiel Elliott, get these guys just off the board. The earlier, the better. But we're just no man's land there. No man's land. Nick says, how do I find the draft guide after I signed up for Underdog? Okay, thank you so much. So it's not just signing up for Underdog. Like I said, you have to make a minimum of a $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK. But when you make that $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK on Underdog or something more, whatever it is, you will notice that it's doubled in your account that second because it's super easy for them to do that on their back end. I don't know. This is a it's a massive company. I don't know all the ins and outs, but it does take about an hour or 2 for it to go through our system. I mean, their system, and recognize that you used our promo code FLOCK, for them to send you the email with the fantasy football draft guide. So the email is going to come from Underdog Fantasy. It will have our draft guide and our rankings, and it will come about 1 to 2 hours after you sign up with promo code FLOCK. If you can't find it, just please check your spam. If you still can't find it after that, please just feel free to email me with the email address you signed up with, and I'd be happy to get that sorted out. My email address is in the description of this. Okay. So let's look at this. Derek says, this is the first draft I've taken Josh Allen like that. I know a lot of people are going to go through. They're going to take Allen and Chase together, trying to have that unique build. I mean, sorry, not even a unique build, but have that upside for that week 17 matchup that they're going to have, or for that championship week. I personally don't think the week 17 bringbacks matter as much as other people are looking at, but it is what it is. So Derek decides to go Breece Hall, pick 44. Kind of helps us. I mean, obviously, we need more running backs off the board. Breece Hall was going to be gone no matter what. Darren Waller off a 47. So you have the other teams there taking the elite level tight ends. Hopefully, we have pick 49 taking George Kittle, so we have a really cool pattern going with the draft board. It would look really cool. 49 goes Kittle. They go Justin Herbert, though. They ruin the pattern. Here they go Herbert, I guess at a strong value as well. Okay. So now let's scroll this up real quick. Michael says, is going 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds with pick 1 a good strategy if I can get Zeke and Javonte on the 2-3 swing, or go running back, wide receiver? The formats: 1 quarterback, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and double flex. Okay, so here I think it is going to be a very balanced format. I mean, this is what I make all my rankings for. I'd say I'm not taking an Ezekiel Elliott there at the 2-3 turn, but like the last draft that we just did, I did start it off from that 101 pick with 3 running backs in a row. But the running backs that we were looking at in that draft were Jonathan Taylor. Then we actually got Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb. So if that's going to be the trio of running backs, yes, I don't want to be reaching on an Ezekiel Elliott there, though, at pick 25. Like Nick Chubb's in a completely different tier than an Ezekiel Elliott for me. Okay. Fantasy Football Dog Pound says, the Dog Pound, all 14 of us want to thank you for the support and inspiration. Hashtag Rook Streamer. Thank you, my friend, for coming out. Wishing you the best of luck. My Sub-Zero says, Travis Etienne over Breece Hall, question mark. Yes, we are going to be going Etienne over Breece Hall. I mean, with Breece Hall, I understand the upside case. We've already made that upside case the day we had the NFL Combine on our Dynasty channel. We called him a top 5 Dynasty running back because he does pop off in our prospect model. He looks fantastic. But still, Travis Etienne looks like DeAndre Swift for me. And if you're looking at Trevor Lawrence had the #1 checkdown rate among all NFL quarterbacks last year. Misa says, do you have a Dynasty draft guide? I have a Dynasty research book and a Dynasty rookie draft guide, also on flockfantasy.com. And we have our hats on flockfantasy.com if anybody still wants a hat and did not get one of the free hundreds of hats I gave away last year. Okay, so let's pull this back around, and dear God, I can't say too much. We got to zip it up, lock it in. Zip it up and lock it in. Let's see what these teams do. I don't know how to say this team's name. I don't want to embarrass myself and sound like an idiot. They go Amon-Ra St. Brown here, pick 57, getting that Hard Knocks bump. Rashad Bateman goes pick 58. Chi-Town True goes Darnell Mooney. Guys, we're going hyper fragile, I guess. Am I supposed to pass on Cam Akers at pick 60? I'm not. I'm never doing this in a million years. I'm never passing on Akers. Now, the question is, do we reach on a wide receiver here? No, I can't reach on Elijah Moore. I can't reach on Adam Thielen. I can't reach on Amari Cooper when we're able to take Kyler Murray. So we're going to go through. We're going to take Cam Akers, Kyler Murray here at the turn. We're going to have the elite level quarterback. We are going to have the elite level tight end, the best running back core in the league, but we are going to be scrambling, and I repeat, scrambling at the wide receiver position. Hopefully we can find some value later on. Like, I think our initial plan was to go ahead and take like a Darnell Mooney there at the 5-6 turn, but to get Akers 12 picks past his ADP, I understand with Akers, you'd have some serious red flags coming off the torn Achilles, but that's baked into his price point. Like, if we remember where Cam Akers was going last year, we covered this not too long ago, but Cam Akers last year was literally a running back with an ADP of 10. Pick 10. He was a late first round selection. Getting him here at the 5-6 turn, pick 60. I'm all in on. Okay. So now let's go. Kevin Effect says a flock hat. Yeah, if y'all don't know, guys, on the live stream last year, I mean, I went through and gave away a crap. I gave away hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hats. Like, I appreciate y'all. I'm going to continue to try to do stuff like that. That's why as of late on the videos, like I've been saying, like I'm going to reply to the first 200 comments. A, it's good when y'all comment on the video. It helps us in the algorithm. And B, I don't want to be trying to take as much time out of my day as possible to answer all your questions. So I'm going to continue to do stuff like that. I think it's very difficult for me to go through and look to give away hats on every single video like we did last year. But what we can do is I can look to just sell this hats, and I can look to spend my time answering all your questions in the comment section. Saram coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says, hope all is well. Thoughts on the 111? Looks decent. Okay, let's go through. Let's check out. Okay, Saram, are you Chi-Town True? Okay, obviously, I know you've been a long-time member of the flock. Recognize your name in the live chat. And I know that also Chi-Town Trues are drafting with us all the time. So let me know if I can put these two names together. But anyway, Derrick Henry, love it there, pick 11. Aaron Jones, 14. Personally, I go Joe Mixon, especially if we're going to be looking at the fact that there aren't going to be that many combinations of a Derrick Henry and a Mixon. And a lot of people are able to draft Derrick Henry at pick 8 or 9 and then still get Aaron Jones on the way back around at 16, 17. So I probably would prefer to go Derrick Henry and Mixon. But Waddle, 35, I really like. Allen Robinson, 38. You're in no man's land. It's up to you. It's your choice of these guys. I'm not a massive fan of A-Rob at this price point, but I completely understand it. Darnell Mooney, 59. Personally, I go Cam Akers. But maybe that's because selfishly we needed a wide receiver to make it back to us. And then Jalen Hurts, 62. Jalen Hurts, 62 is a no-brainer. I mean, if I don't have James Conner or Hollywood Brown, and I want to take an elite level quarterback at the beginning of the 6th, usually I am taking Jalen Hurts over Kyler. Okay. So Rom says, I'm not, just curious, LOL. Okay, yeah. So pick 11. I really do like it. Everything outside the Aaron Jones over Joe Mixon. I do think that Joe Mixon is a tier above Aaron Jones. Okay, so let's move this down. Amari Cooper off the board here, picks 73. Dalton Schultz goes 72. What are we going to be? This is the issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is the issue. It's going to be so hard for us to take another running back. And look at what we are going to have according to ADP staring at us. Guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Antonio Gibson, Ramondre Stevenson, Chase Edmonds. We do not have a single wide receiver yet on this team. Let's see what Derek does. Derek has been going Pollard a lot in the 7th. I don't know if he's going Pollard over all these wide receivers. So he does go Pollard again at the 705. Honestly, probably a pretty good thing for us. Gives us a better shot to have a wide receiver value making it. You have Ayuk going. Love that Ayuk pick from this team. I think zigzag. Starting off Eckler, Swift, Nick Chubb. Oh my gosh. I'm in love with this team from pick 6. Now, personally, I go Deontay Johnson over Gabriel Davis. That's just my personal preference. Gabriel Davis has an ADP higher than Deontay Johnson. It is what it is. Give me Johnson, but outside of that, I do agree. Go wide receiver here. And then get George Kittle, 54 at a massive value. Trey Lance, 67 to get the Kittle stack. Ayuk on the way back around to get the double stack there with Trey Lance. Oh my gosh, guys. Look at Team 6. That is so exciting. Okay. But now we are in a tough spot. Chi-Town True goes Chris Olave. Thank God. Thank God we get Kadarius Toney here. Beyond Toney, let's think. If we go Dak, we can be looking at Gallup later on. If we go Brady, we can be looking at Gage. We can be looking at Julio. We can be looking at Brate. We can't take a running back here. Even if I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the best value on the board by a mile, I can't take him. I literally can't. From a roster construction standpoint, we are not allowed to take another running back. I think at this point, we probably have to go ahead. Let's take Tom Brady here. Let's take Brady. If this was not a best ball format, if this was just a regular casual fantasy football league, shallow starting lineup, instead of Tom Brady, we go with anybody else. You don't take another quarterback after Kyler Murray. But because we are going to be getting the highest scoring quarterback out of these two guys every single week, obviously that's going to be very good for us. I think that we can go through. I think we can capture a top 3 quarterback finish weekly with Brady and Kyler on the same roster, and we are going to save a roster spot for a wide receiver later on. The issue, guys, is running back's the value here. Like, in reality, it's very difficult to take the wide receivers at this point. Like, the wide receivers we're going to be looking at that are on the clock, I mean, best available now, are going to be about the same players that we're going to be looking at there in the into the 9th, beginning of the 10th, and the quarterback drop-off that we are going to have is pretty large. But let's go through. I think we had a couple other donation questions. Of course, thank you all so much. So Rom says, still trying to get into one. Cheers, Mason. Thank you as always, legend. No, thank you, my friend, for being a long-time member of the flock. You know, I appreciate you. And then let's go through and, okay, Jayan says, Sam Robinson is Chi-Town true. Okay, just wanting to put those names together. Armando says, who's this year's Cooper Kupp for you? As in a massive breakout. Last year, I really thought it was Swift, but I guess I was semi-right. Yeah, I mean, Swift was the right call in terms of chasing a running back breakout last year. I was drafting Swift everywhere in the 3rd. If I'm having to call this year's Cooper Kupp, hear me out on this. Because it's not like Cooper Kupp broke out from nowhere. Cooper Kupp had already posted a top 10 wide receiver finish in fantasy before. It just hadn't happened in a while. He was coming off an injury. I mean, an injury 2 years ago. And he was going about in the 5th or in the 4th round. He was a player that has showed us that elite level ceiling before. Who is a player that you are getting a discount on because he hasn't been as productive as of late, whether you want to blame that on quarterback play, whether you want to blame that on an injury, whatever it may be. My bet on this year's Cooper Kupp, I know he doesn't fit the exact prototype, but if I had to choose someone that was going to be able to come out from this range and be the wide receiver 1 overall, does anybody here, looking at round 4 or later, have the wide receiver 1 overall potential outside of Michael Thomas? I know it's a very boring call. We've been saying it all off season. I was talking about like Michael Thomas a lot more when you used to be able to get him in the 8th round. Now, when you have to draft him in the 5th, I think his upside is priced in a little bit more. But, so let's see what y'all are saying. Gino says, finally in a draft with you, and it's a big one at pick 9. Okay, let's go through. Let's check out Gino's draft. First, let me see what y'all are thinking in terms of trying to find the next Cooper Kupp. We have Thomas or Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sutton, DJ Moore, Thomas, Amon-Ra, Allen Robinson, Thomas, Godwin. I like the Godwin call as well. The Godwin call is very strong. But let me make our picks here at the 9-10 turn, and then we are going to go check out Team 9 for Gino. Of course, Gino, thank you so much, my friend. Let's move this back around. Okay, so Chi-Town True does have an advantage over us, knowing that we probably can't take another quarterback here. So even if Stafford were to fall, like, we can't take Stafford at 108, 109. So if they wanted to take him, hell, they can just wait until 110. But in reality, I think that, guys, I'm going to reach on 2 players. It is what it is. I think that we want to build in correlation. I think that this is going to be a flat tier at wide receiver once you have Tyler Boyd go off the board. So we are going to go through. We are going to take Gage and Julio Jones here. In a vacuum, I don't love these players at this price point. But when we get Tom Brady here, I think that we do need to be making sure that we're locking in some Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass catchers, because we are making the bet that you are going to have Tom Brady as a top 3 overall quarterback in passing yards again this upcoming season. Or if he's not, this team's already trashed to begin with, which this team is probably trashed to begin with. But let's go ahead. Let's take 2 of these wide receivers. And honestly, looking back, like, there's not that much of a difference between like a Marquez Valdes-Scantling and these wide receivers that we take right here for me. So I'm happy with our decision to decide to pass on those wide receivers there in the 8th. But let's go through. Let's check out this entire draft board. Let's look at Team 9 here for Gino. And real quick, if y'all want to see another draft, please make sure you go down there. Drop a like on the live stream. If we hit 700 likes, we are going to fire up another draft after this one. And then let's look at Team 9. Team 9, Dalvin Cook, Mixon. Love it, my friend. DJ Moore, love it. Hollywood, great pick. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Here I'd probably go Cam Akers, but it is what it is. You still get David Montgomery on the way back around pick 64. Hunter Renfrow, 81. It is marginal for me if I'm going to be looking at some of these other players. Like, I'm not a massive Renfrow guy. I probably would take the upside with a Kadarius Toney instead. TJ Hawkinson, 88. I mean, I'm never going to argue with someone to take TJ Hawkinson here. Derek Carr to stack up with Hunter Renfrow, 105. Aaron Rodgers, 112 to bring in 2 pretty good quarterbacks. I don't want to call them elite level quarterbacks. But yeah, no, I really like the team overall. I mean, I think you definitely got set up in the right direction What I maybe would have done actually if I were you is instead of taking Amon-Ra St. Brown there, pick 57, maybe like a Kyler Murray. That way we don't have to take one of these quarterbacks in this range. Like, would you rather have Kyler Murray and Garrett Wilson or Aaron Rodgers and Amon-Ra St. Brown? Even though I know obviously St. Brown is having that Hard Knocks hype right now. Okay. So Boggoat says, keep killing it, Mason. I am torn. Pick 2 in an upcoming money league draft. Full PPR 12-team league. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 normal flex. Hard time trusting Christian McCaffrey. Thinking of Justin Jefferson and then running backs rounds 2 and 3. Okay, so no, I thought we were picking 2 for a keeper league. Okay, no, so we were picking at the 102. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you, my friend, of course. And here, if we were going to be looking at someone in this format, I know you're having a hard time trusting CMC. Trust me, I get it. I understand it. I mean, if you took Christian McCaffrey over the past 2 years, you lost money. And it's that simple. But the average win rate for someone going into their fantasy football league, 8.5%, assuming it's a 12-team league. If Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, that average win rate of yours, not going to be 8.5%. Probably closer to 30. At least that's what we saw last time he was healthy in 2019. I think at that point he had like a win rate of like 34%. I'm not expecting him to be the same running back he was 2019. That's why we're bumping him down just a little bit. He still has access to a ceiling that is unmatched, specifically in this league as well. When it's so shallow, you only start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. Like having a Christian McCaffrey healthy, having like Cooper Kupp from last year, having a Jonathan Taylor from last year, that gives you such an advantage where people aren't able to catch up at wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, flex 1, flex 2, flex 3. Take CMC, lock in the upside. And then honestly, I would be looking at like a Mark Andrews on the way back around in the second round with a very shallow format like that. But thank you so much for being a longtime member of the flock, my man. But we have Justin Fields, 126 here. Good for us. I mean, the past, 7 picks have been perfect for us where we're not wanting to have any wide receivers off the board. We're wanting those running backs. We're wanting those quarterbacks to go. Jalen Tolbert falling a significant amount past his ADP at this point. Which, to be honest, is how I think it should be. Okay. So after this, a couple of these teams are balanced on the end. Jaden says, I just took Diggs over Kupp and Chase. Sue me. Jaden, I'm going to have to remove your moderator status. You took Diggs over Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase? I wish I could ask another one of the moderators to go through and ban you. I really wish I could. Alberto off the board. The question is, do we want to go tight end here? Alexander Madison goes, probably don't want to go tight end, by the way. Let's think through this. Joshua Palmer, easy pick. I don't like Romeo Doubs. I don't like the price point of DJ Chark. This is such a trash team. I outdid myself with this one. I truly outdid myself with this one. I went into this draft with a mission to make this the worst draft of all time. Now, we are going to be able to roster 10 wide receivers, and in a best ball format, we are going to be able to cycle these guys through. But look at this complete and utter trash. We are going to have probably some of the best quarterback play in the league every single week, probably the best quarterback play in the league every single week with Kyler Murray, Tom Brady. We are probably going to have the best running back play in the league every single week with Najee Harris, James Conner, Travis Etienne, Cam Akers. We're going to have super good tight end production with Travis Kelce as well as Cole Kmet. But beyond that, what the hell are we doing at receiver? Oh my gosh. Tony, Gage, Julio Jones, Joshua Palmer. What the hell did I just do? Now, it's a best ball format. We are rostering 10 wide receivers. We are legitimately only drafting receiver from here on out. We need 3 of these guys to be able to provide us spike weeks every single week. It's hard for me to go through and make an argument for this, though. Very, very difficult for me to make an argument for this. So I guess what we need to see is Kadarius Toney take an elite jump into year 2. We need Brady to be close to leading the NFL in passing again this upcoming season, which I guess that's possible. And then that would lead to Russell Gage and Julio Jones paying off this ADP. And we also probably need an injury to either Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. That all needs to happen. Mystery says, where is Mason and what did you do to him? He's locked in the closet over there, my friend. We locked him up. We went rogue this draft. But good news for you. If you go down there, drop a like in this live stream. Keep me from crying. We will be able to fire up another draft after this one if we hit 700 likes in the live stream. So please make sure you go down there and drop a like in the live stream. That's all I got to say. Fernando says 112, worst place to pick from. Yeah, let's blame it on the draft spot, guys. What am I supposed to do? I got the 112. Have you ever seen a good team from the 112? I haven't. That's just what happened. That's what happened. I didn't ruin this draft. It was just the draft spot. Jaden says, and you flame me for taking digs. Look at this mess. All right, I got you, my man. I got you. Okay, so let's move this back around. Michael Carter off the board, 147. So you don't have too many running backs that you can expect people to still take. I mean, Herbert, Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams are kind of the last guys in this tier. Hunter Henry is the last tight end in that tier as well. Okay. So Teresa coming out says, Mason, my keeper is Cooper Kupp in round 6 this season. Okay, obviously that's beautiful not having to spend a round 1 pick on Cooper Kupp, instead getting that cheat code of having him round 6. Wishing you the best of luck. Definitely happy to hear about your team later on. And I'm assuming you haven't drafted it yet. When do y'all have the majority of your drafts? Like your in-person casual fantasy football league, I'd imagine the majority of them are drafting next week. Let me know when you are drafting yours. Okay. So Christian Watson, KJ Osborne, Brian Robinson all off the board. See how long Hunter Henry lasts. Obviously, I can't take Hunter Henry. No matter what happens, I can't take Hunter Henry here. Robert Tonyan goes 154. Interesting to see Robert Tonyan go before Hunter Henry. Jarvis goes. Okay, so I guess we just hammer in Nico Collins, KJ Hamler. With some guaranteed targets with Nico Collins. We get some spike week upside here with KJ Hamler. I mean, y'all know I'm never going to pass up on our guy, KJ Hamler, at a value. So let's hope that some of these wide receivers can provide us some random spike weeks. Right now, like I said, we have the best running backs in this league. We have the best tight ends in this league. We probably have some of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterbacks in this league. What we need is some random spike weeks in a best ball format from these wide receivers to get us through. So far, we've drafted 6 of them. We're going to add 4 more to the squad. But the 6 we have, Tony, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, Joshua Palmer, Nico Collins, KJ Hamler. Oh, dear God. Okay, so Bobcat coming out says, currently rebuilding in a 12-team Superflex Dynasty PPR format. What younger running backs could I try to get? I'm looking to get rid of Chubb and Saquon Barkley. Love the content. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you, my friend. And I found that a lot of Dynasty questions that I've had as of late have been people asking, oh, should I trade my 2023 first and 2024 first? And should I go get Leonard Fournette and Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Like some crazy deals for these picks that you would have had no chance to pull off just a couple weeks ago. I guess it's just because everybody's watching redraft videos. Everybody's getting ready for their redraft league. Everybody's so excited about the season that they're looking at their Dynasty team and they're trying to figure out how to get points in it immediately. So it's a good time to be a rebuilding team in Dynasty. And I would say option A when you're selling these running backs in Dynasty is not to go out there and get some younger running backs, not to go trade for Kenneth Walker. it's just a trade for 2023, just a trade for 2024 draft picks. I mean, if you're looking at that, it's going to give you so much flexibility with what you can do with your roster next offseason. You're going to have the guaranteed value bump up. So if I had to list out some young running backs for you to go out and be on the lookout for, Kenneth Walker would be that guy. You don't have Rashad Penny in Seattle next year, and maybe they can do something to address the offensive line. But in reality, what I would love to do instead is go try to trade Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley in 2 different packages and try to get a combined like 3 first-round picks for him. Whether that's you going through and trading away Nick Chubb for a 2023 first, second, and then a younger prospect like a Christian Watson, for example, and then being able to go and move the Saquon Barkley for a similar type package. Okay, Derek says, how's my team? I'm going to get a Jag stack or 2. Okay, so let's go through. Let's check out Derek's team. Chase, Debo, Michael Thomas, MVS, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver. So I'll say your wide receiver core is all right. I mean, it's nothing special. Like, it's nothing like ours, of course. Isaiah McKenzie there, pick 149. And then outside of that, at quarterback, having Josh Allen. So I guess that's why you ended up going with McKenzie, obviously. Taking Dawson Knox here, 101. I mean, I hate the Dawson Knox value, but I agree when you take Allen, you maybe just have to take Dawson Knox. Running backs coming away with Breece Hall, Elijah Mitchell, Tony Pollard, Kenneth Gainwell, Jamal Williams. Yeah, it looks like an expert draft. I mean, you go through, take some stud wide receivers. You, at the same time, get some running backs with upside if things break right in their favor, even though they don't necessarily project the opportunity immediately, but that's why you're getting them at a discount. Looks like you did what you should do as you watched us just burn light $250 on fire on the live stream. Okay. Real quick, looks like we're about 80 likes away from getting another draft going. So if you want to see another draft, make sure you go down there. Drop a like on the stream. Hell, while you're doing that, you could also subscribe to the channel if you would like. No pressure or anything, but you could hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to get notified when we do go live. Okay, so let's see. What are we going to get? What are we getting? Hayden Hurst goes 176. So it looks like really Austin Hooper is the last tight end in this tier, but I mean, you shouldn't expect Hooper to go off the board anytime soon. Okay, Corey Davis goes 178. I would have been excited about getting Van Jefferson. So Hooper goes. So we're just going to go back-to-back wide receivers here. Super simple. There's nothing we can do. We're going to get Paris Campbell. Hopefully he is indeed the wide receiver 2 for the Indianapolis Colts. Can provide us some spike weeks. We're going to get Marvin Jones here as well. Hopefully he is indeed the wide receiver 2 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He can get us some spike weeks. We are getting ourselves some correlation with Travis Etienne here on this build as well. So we don't need to go through our running backs. They're elite. We don't need to go through the tight ends. They're great. We don't need to go through the quarterbacks. They're great. What we need to see is, can we have 3 wide receivers spiking into our starting lineup out of this grouping of guys as the season progresses? We're going to add 2 more guys to the end of this list. But as it stands today, Kadarius Toney, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, Joshua Palmer, Nico Collins, KJ Hamler, Paris Campbell, Marvin Jones. Okay, I can't. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. What I am hoping for, though, is I am hoping this one's the big dog. I'm hoping that Kadarius Toney has that breakout. I'm hoping that we just get the right spike weeks and the right times. And we can look back at this draft and we can laugh and go, oh my gosh, remember when you thought this team was so bad? In reality, it is what it is. Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God. Okay. So we have Taysom Hill, 187. Good for us. Watson goes 186. Obviously, we just can't burn a roster spot on Watson when every single one of these spots we need for a wide receiver. And if y'all don't know, this was a very similar, I don't even necessarily know if they have the elite quarterbacks, the elite tight ends. But this is what the original winner of Best Ball Mania did. They went through and only drafted 4 running backs at the very top end of their initial draft. And that allowed them to go through and roster some extra wide receivers at the very end. Now, I'll say that back then, the wide receiver value that you could find at the very end of these drafts was significantly better. So I think that draft strategy is not necessarily the most optimal anymore. But it has worked in best ball before in a large field contest. Okay, let's move this over. We have Brevin Jordan 190. Peyton says, I'm watching your strategy video. What order would you draft this season coming out up from round 1 to 8? I'm sorry, Peyton. Please do not feel the need to donate again. Just ask in the live chat that same question, worded differently, because I have no idea what you're asking. Swizz World says, Mason, this has got to be your worst wide receiver core I've ever seen. It's by far and away the worst receiver core we've ever drafted. By far and away. We took our first wide receiver, round 7. Took our 5th receiver, round 13. Oh, dear God. Gardner Minshew says, are you going to make over-under videos this year? Yes, we are. And honestly, I'm very excited. We got some super smart people on the team to make them with us as well. We got some super smart people on the team to make them with. Okay, but Carson Wentz goes 194. Good for us. Just get, please, all of these non-wide receivers off. All the non-wide receivers, get them off. Peyton says, position-wise, how would you be drafting from round 1 to the middle rounds? I am so sorry, Peyton. It's impossible for me to answer that question on a live stream right now. Like, for me to go through and to tell you, you need a wide receiver round 1, wide receiver round 2, running back round 3, running back round 4, tight end round 5, quarterback round 6, wide receiver round 7, running back round 8. If fantasy football was that easy, nobody would play it. You have moving variables draft to draft. It's so hard to project that far out. We did make that draft strategy video that I think can do the best job explaining for your specific format as well, that we've kind of gone through and talked through. I wish I could give you the simple little cheat code, draft this position, this round, in your set. In reality, it's never like that. Or you wouldn't have horrible teams like I just drafted. Okay. Okay, so Terrace Marshall, Jamison Crowder off the board. 197, 198. Ronald Jones goes 199. Good for us. Just get Rojo off. Just get these players off for the love of God. Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. Do we have any? I don't want to say this out loud, but real quick, guys, 50 likes in the live stream if y'all want to see another draft after this one. If not, no worries. I know it's a Thursday night. We can get, obviously, we're going to be live streaming again tomorrow night. Sammy Watkins off the board, okay? I was literally searching Sammy Watkins in case we had any news. AJ Green's an auto pick here. We have Kyler Murray. I mean, AJ Green, best wide receiver available, getting us some overall target volume. After that, usually David Bell's someone I'm going with, but that's when you're not necessarily getting a Donovan Peoples-Jones or a Kendrick Bourne, making it back to in the 18th round. Let's go AJ Green, and then we'll take Donovan Peoples-Jones. So this is the group of 10 wide receivers. Like I said, obviously our running backs are very strong. Obviously our tight ends are very strong. Obviously our quarterbacks are very strong. What we need is 3 of these wide receivers giving us random spike weeks that will pop into our starting lineup through the course of the season. Probably not going to get enough. We're definitely not going to get enough firepower. I don't think we need them for the flex spot. I think that we can have one of those running backs hitting the flex. I think at the same time, we can have maybe even a Cole Kmet hitting the flex spot in some weeks. But we need 3 of these 10. Kadarius Toney, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, Joshua Palmer, Nico Collins, KJ Hamler, Paris Campbell, Marvin Jones, AJ Green, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Oh, this is brutal. Johnny says, let's get another. Drop a like. And, bro, your reaction to this lineup had me rolling it. Stream is high quality as always. Keep on keeping on. Dude, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. And, yes, I do not appreciate this draft. I will say that for sure. What we can say is, guys, you know why I did this, right? You know why I just drafted the worst team in Underdog fantasy history. It should be obvious to you. If you have a brain, it should be obvious. We're just going for the unique roster construction. We just know nobody else has ever drafted this team. That's why we go through and do this. Isn't it obvious? We're thinking so far ahead of everyone else. If everybody's drafting good teams, if we want a unique team, why don't we just draft a bad one? Did you ever think about that? That thought ever run through your head? Probably didn't, because you're probably not a fantasy football expert like yours truly, huh? Sometimes you just got to be good enough at fantasy football to know that you should draft a bad team. It's that simple. But we are going to get a $3 draft going after this one. Let me set up this little private draft. Just going to be a private draft, so you will see a link sent out in the live chat. It just says $3 draft here. $3 draft here. But let me send this out. $3 draft. And of course, if you want to join, if you want to come take our money, be my guest. Be my guest, my friend. Golf for Life says, don't worry, Mason. I can join you at the bottom. Okay, let me go through. Let me pull up Golf for Life's draft real quick, because I know it was probably significantly better than ours. He's just out here trolling us. Okay, so let me see if I can find this. And I will swing this back over. We get the 107. So another pick that I am not a fan of here. It is what it is. We will try to make it work. As I find Golf for Life's team, let me explain to you how to join these drafts with us if y'all want to. If you just saw how easy my money is up for grabs, hell, go to the link at the top of the live chat where it says join our next draft here, code FLOCK. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. So it's essentially free for you to try out. And also, if you make a $10 deposit, you're going to get our 2022 rankings and our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Literally, I'm trying to get you our 2022 fantasy football draft guide the cheapest way possible. That's pretty good freaking setup. And obviously, it's a ton of fun getting these drafts. But let me go through and let me, oh my God. Oh my God. Pull back up this team. This is just the most horrendous thing I've ever done in my entire life. It's literally a train wreck. I cannot take my eyes off of it. But let me go back over to Golf for Life's team. Let's see what Golf for Life did. Quarterback, Cousins, Jones, Watson. Okay, so obviously betting that Cousins and Jones will get them there through the first half of the season. Then Watson coming in. Kamara, Zeke, CEH, Antonio Gibson, and Ronald Jones at running back. 103 Antonio Gibson's pretty damn good value. I actually really like that running back core. And then at tight end, Irv Smith Jr., Noah Fant. What I probably would have done if I were you, when at wide receiver, you have Diggs, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen, Devonta Smith, Jalen Tolbert, KJ Osborne, Kendrick Bourne. Did you think about taking a third tight end? I probably would have taken a third tight end if I'm going to be honest. But let's go ahead. Let's take Austin Eckler here, pick 7. Yeah. Now, after we take Eckler at 7, you know what we should do? We should go through and take an elite tight end in the second round. Then we should take a running back in the third, a running back in the fourth, a running back in the fifth, a quarterback in the sixth. That way we get our first wide receiver in the 7th round. And then after that, we'll go with another quarterback, because who else wants wide receivers? And then after that, in a couple of rounds, we'll go another tight end. That way we can have like Kadarius Toney as our wide receiver 1. Maybe like Julio Jones, wide receiver 2, Russell Gage, wide receiver 3. That way we can really have a well-balanced roster. What do y'all think about that one? But after we take Eckler, all jokes aside, very standard draft. I mean, not necessarily seeing anything too crazy here. Devontae Adams at 9 is something that you get in a lot of these underdog drafts. Obviously, you're never going to get that in a casual fantasy football draft. Okay. Travis Kelce goes at 12. Joe Mixon goes at 13. Zach says, Mason, where do I go for auction help? My friend, I don't have a great resource for you. I'm hoping that in the future I can. The issue with going through and making auction videos, and my first Dynasty startup draft I actually did back in 2014 was an auction Dynasty startup. Like, I have a decent amount of experience with auction drafts. The issue is when you're going through and joining an auction for the first time. I mean, when I'm trying to cover an auction draft for someone in an individual league, the most important thing of understanding your auction league is going to be the nuances of your format. It's going to be knowing how many teams are in your league, knowing the starting lineup requirements, knowing the amount of bench spots that you have, which is going to dictate the budget that you have on individual players. If you should go studs or duds, if you should go with an overall depth approach. So it's very difficult for me to go through and make a one-size-fits-all auction advice video. I would sit down and think long and hard. The shallower the league is, the more you're wanting to lean with studs and duds. The deeper the league is, the more you want a well-rounded approach. Golf for Life says, thanks for the feedback. Hope you're having a good week. No, thank you, my friend. And of course, let me know in the live chat. I really respect your opinion and what you do in drafts. Like, clearly your draft was a lot better than mine. Let me know why you didn't go with a third tight end and instead like took a Kendrick Bourne there, or instead took that extra wide receiver. Okay, but Jacob says Swift over Aaron Jones. Yeah, we have Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift in the same exact tier, but if you look at DeAndre Swift, he has an ADP of about 16, where Aaron Jones, you are going to be able to get him a lot later. Like here, he falls to pick 20. So if I'm going to be drafting in 500, 600 of these drafts, when I do have the ability to take both running backs, a lot of times I am having to give the tiebreaker over to DeAndre Swift, because I'm still going to be able to end up with more Aaron Jones than DeAndre Swift in the aggregate if you're going to be looking at my exposures. So let's mix it up. We will go with a DeAndre Swift here at pick 18. We have A.J. Brown going off the board at pick 28. Okay. Kyle Pitts, 29. Zach asking for good websites with auction data. I'm sorry, there's, in my opinion, nothing really good out there. I am working on... You're not going to have anything soon, but long-term, I'm hopefully going to have something good for you. I can't say too much. Very similar. I'm not in love with Michael Pittman here. If you're looking at my rankings, like I even have Jalen Waddle ranked before Michael Pittman, but we are going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to take him. He falls 3 picks past his ADP. In a lot of these drafts, we can get Jalen Waddle at the very beginning of the 4th. We never really have the opportunity to take Michael Pittman at pick 31. I usually take DJ Moore over him. I guess DJ Moore, because we're drafting with members of the flock here, is going to slide up over Michael Pittman almost regardless. So here we're starting this draft off with the 2 running back approach, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, getting Michael Pittman at 31. Okay. 6 letter says, do you do your last best ball draft the morning of opening day? Probably. I wonder if Underdog's going to have any like cool like Wednesday day contest or like Thursday day contest. I don't know. Hopefully. Because really the only tournament drafts I can do on Underdog right now, since I maxed out Best Ball Mania, are the big dogs. And I literally cannot afford to do a big dog unless we're doing it on a live stream. Like if we're doing it on a live stream, I'm able to tell myself, hell, we'll get enough subscribers. We'll be able to, even if say we just, because the thing is also, it's not like when we get in a $250 draft, we're spending $250. In reality, if you're like looking at what we're spending, we're probably spending the rake. And that's just assuming that we are an average drafter. Like, just say if you are spending the rake, you're spending like $20, and we know that we're going to be able to make that money back in the long term, obviously, if we're able to get a lot of views on a live stream and get a lot of subscribers. But it's not like I can just go and fire up those public tournament $250 drafts off the live stream. Like, I'm not sitting around in my house and in my apartment and just scrolling in a $250 draft and not streaming it. So it's hard for me to get into any tournament drafts on Underdog right now when we maxed out the $25 one. And the only other one's the $250, and I can't do that off the live stream or it'd just be idiotic. Now, Pump says, yeah, to the point that the whole game was a bad idea to do something that was so bad. Okay, I'm very confused, my friend. Yeah, to the point of that the whole game was like a bad idea to do something that was so bad that he didn't have it, so I don't even know how long. I don't know if you meant to text that to something. I don't know if you're on. I don't know what's going on, my friend. I have no idea. But in this league, if it was the fantasy football playoffs, like if you had weeks 15, 16, 17, where we need to be optimizing for those rookies that can give you that elite level breakout at the final push of the season, Breece Hall is the pick here, and it's not even a question. In this league where it's going to be that private draft, it's just who can score the most points weeks 1 through 17. I am going to be devaluing those rookies in comparison. So we will go with a Jerry Jeudy here. Okay, so after we go Jerry Jeudy, actually have a J.K. Dobbins. Okay, do y'all remember? I know I just embarrassed myself in the last draft, but y'all got to give me some props. We made a video a couple weeks ago when J.K. Dobbins had an ADP in the 6th round, and we said that before the season started, J.K. Dobbins would have an ADP in the 4th. Now, this isn't where his ADP is. This drafter is reaching on him. But you are beginning to see that shift where J.K. Dobbins is now an early 5th. And I still stand by my statement that I think by the time the season starts, Dobbins is going to be a player with a 4th round ADP. Okay. So Dylan coming out says, thoughts about Keenan Allen in the 2nd round. Okay, yeah, we saw Keenan Allen here, pick 19. I don't like it. I understand the thought process, and I do want to stand by the fact that I think Keenan Allen is the wide receiver 1 still in Los Angeles this upcoming season, but I can't ignore the red flags. He's going into year 9. We've seen his air yards fall off a cliff over the past 2 seasons. Like, it's not like there are no red flags at all with this Keenan Allen profile. Also, you could have possibly got him at 30, if that makes sense. So I'm not a big fan of Keenan Allen there at 19. Okay, so Gabriel Davis, Cam Akers off the board. So Cam Akers goes off here, pick 51 instead of pick 60 with where we got him. Looks like we're going to hammer in another wide receiver here. Very balanced approach we have so far. I mean, we have Eckler, Swift at running back, and at wide receiver, we have Michael Pittman, Jerry Jeudy. I'm sorry to do this to you. Guys, I got to pull up that draft we did right before. I can't think about anything else. This was the weirdest team I have ever drafted. If you missed the draft we did before this one, before this, we got into a $250 fantasy football draft, and I embarrassed myself to no end. It was about the ugliest thing you'll ever see. It was gross. At quarterback, we were elite. We had Kyler and Tom Brady. Tight end, we were elite. We had Travis Kelce, Cole Kmet. Running back, we were elite. Najee Harris, James Conner, Travis Etienne, Cam Akers. So you ask yourselves, Mason, how did you come away with such a strong quarterback group? How did you have 2 elite tight ends and that running back core? It's because we sacrificed our wide receiver position to the gods. Like, we just burned our wide receiver picks. Now it's best ball. I don't know if we're going to get 3 usable guys every week, but Tony, Gage, Julio, Palmer, Nico Collins, KJ Hamler, Paris Campbell, Marvin Jones, AJ Green, Donovan Peoples-Jones. That is just, like, it's just speechless. Literally just speechless there. Okay, so let's pull this back around. Took Juju Smith-Schuster, pick 55. I want to bet on this Kansas City Chiefs offense where I can. Pump says top 3 most overrated fantasy players this season. Okay. Number 1 by a mile before the Tim Patrick injury was Courtland Sutton. Now I think that his price point's more reasonable. I still kind of want to include him on this list. I definitely don't want to continue to go out here and act like he's still the worst value in these fantasy drafts. Like, he's not that bad now that Tim Patrick is down and his price hasn't gone up. But outside of Courtland Sutton, someone that I really don't like, because usually goes before this, he has an ADP before DJ Moore, before Kyle Pitts. I occasionally see him get drafted before AJ Brown. And the reason he gets drafted there is because he's the hype guy this year. Everybody has him penciled in as the number 1 breakout this upcoming season. Michael Pittman. It is very difficult for me to get there with Pittman. Yes, we take him in the 3rd round this draft. We take him behind his ADP. I mean, we just do it from a diversification standpoint. But on the whole, I am not really drafting much Michael Pittman, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I do think in a vacuum, this is a wide receiver that is overvalued compared to those other options. And if I had to give you one more name, give me 1 second. I would say on Underdog, it's tough because he falls in this draft as well. Gabriel Davis. Gabriel Davis is an ADP of about 43 going in the middle of the 4th round before someone like Deontay Johnson. I would say when people are ranking Michael Pittman over T. Higgins, the hype's probably a little out of control. When people are ranking Gabriel Davis over Deontay Johnson, the hype is also probably a little out of control. Okay. Now we have A.J. Dillon off the board here, pick 72. Drake London goes 73. I think we're going to be completely fine with the running back value that we get on the way back around. That's why we decide to usually take wide receivers where we did in this draft. Devonta Smith. Allen Lazard is also a player that I think is very much overdrafted. Hopkins, we can't take in this draft just because the format's not anything against Hopkins himself. Mike says, is there any point in doing Best Ball Mania now considering how much better / more value the teams drafted weeks / months ago have? There are two different thoughts with this, and that there's the thought process that one crowd has saying, if you look at the super teams that were possibly built a couple months ago, that overall top 0.0001% group is probably going to come from that time period where you're getting guys like KJ Hamler in the 17th and Julio Jones there as well. But there's also another group that says there are going to be so many picks from that range that were also burned that if you look in a whole over the past 5 years, fantasy football drafts that occurred closer to the season, on average, those teams score more points because you are wasting less roster spots on guys that are eventually just going to get cut from NFL teams. Like if you remember, like right after the NFL draft, I mean, when Best Ball Mania opened, there were guys like Justin Ross going. That's just one example off the top of my head, but players going regularly in drafts that weren't going to be making rosters. So on average, teams drafted now that we have a much better understanding of actual situations, they are going to have a higher average output. But at the same time, there's a reason that I maxed out all my Best Ball Mania teams a few weeks ago. Like I maxed out all my Best Ball Mania teams the day before Deshaun Watson got his initial suspension announcement. And now Saeed coming out says Davis Mills, Carson Wentz, Zach Wilson, Jameis Winston, or Mac Jones. I'm going to go Jameis Winston out of this grouping. I mean, we've seen Jameis Winston lead the NFL in passing yards before. Also that same season, he was second in the NFL in passing touchdowns. He has Michael Thomas. He has Chris Olave. He has Jarvis Landry. He has Alvin Kamara. I'm going Jameis. 6 letters says, how did you decide on the name Flock? Always wondered. From a fantasy football group chat a long time ago. Okay, so Aaron Jones, pick 87. Yeah, I was gonna be looking at, like, at what point do we have to go through and just take Hopkins? Like, he is like a wasted roster spot through the first 6 weeks here. You're getting 11 weeks of his production, presumably. It's just so hard in this format where you're not drafting for the fantasy football playoffs and it's cumulative scoring weeks 1 through 17. Okay, Gibson off the board. Honestly, I would never do this in a regular league, guys, where you have to be chasing that production weeks 15, 16, 17, where you also are looking for that guy that just can give you the elite level ceilings during the bye week stretch as well. But here, points matter just as much at the beginning of the season, and it's going to be very difficult for me to ever go through and look at what we could potentially have with taking zeros during that stretch with the DeAndre Hopkins pick. I don't think it's horrible here with where you're getting that value, but it's still something that I personally probably want to go through and avoid where I can. Okay. So let's move this down. Hopkins 91. Kareem Hunt goes 93. So we are at the point where we are going to be wanting to look for running back value on the way back around. I mean, we have Eckler, we have DeAndre Swift, so it's not like we're dying for running back production. But let me go back and look at that team that I drafted. Like, that team that I drafted is just so damn bad. It will be crazy, though. It will be crazy if that team, like out of all teams, if that's the one to win something for us, y'all got to admit, that would be just absolutely wild. Okay. MVS, Robert Woods off the board. Probably a good thing for us to see these wide receivers off whenever we've taken so many wide receivers here in the middle rounds. Dallas Goedert finally goes pick 98. Goddard doesn't really make it here nearly as often as he used to. Let's move this back around. James Cook, pick 100. I think that we could go with almost an exact opposite approach in this draft than what we had in the last one. We can go with another wide receiver here, and then we can be slim at wide receiver. Use the extra roster spots elsewhere. Let's see what these teams in front of us do. So now that you have Dameon Pierce off the board, it looks like these guys are going to get pushed up ever so slightly. But you know what? The drop-off that we're going to have from like a Tyler Lockett to these other guys. Let's go ahead. Let's take Lockett here. As our 6th wide receiver, we're definitely only going to be drafting 7 of these guys total. So right now at running back, we have the combination of Eckler, Swift. Beyond that, we have Michael Pittman, Jerry Jeudy, Juju Smith-Schuster, Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfrow, Tyler Lockett. And then at quarterback, we have Russell Wilson at pick 79. Okay. Now, there are a couple running backs that we would like on the way back around. If we don't get them, it's not going to be the end of the world. Dawson Knox finally off the board there, 107. Y'all know I'm not a big Dawson Knox guy. Really the only tight ends I'm fine taking this range are going to be Hawkinson and Goddard. After that, if we don't get Hawkinson and Goddard, I'm going to be waiting until the very end of drafts. So we have Kenneth Walker at 108. And I know we haven't said this in a video and it seems like in a while, but if y'all don't know, if we hit 90,000 subscribers before the season starts, and if every day is similar to the day we had yesterday, we should hit that, but we don't have many days like the day yesterday. We will get a 24-hour, you heard me right, 24-hour live stream going, draft marathon. Now what it's going to take is a group effort, okay? What I need from you is not just on this live stream. I'm not asking for this live stream. If you want to see this happen, if not, it's all cool. But it would be cool to have like a big Underdog special event. We hit 90,000 subs on the channel. Let's go wild. But every time you watch one of our videos, please, guys, make sure you go down there and drop a like. Make sure you drop a like, watch a video, leave a comment as well. To be honest with you, I don't want to do it. I wouldn't want to be live drafting for 24 hours. I can't even imagine it. But I think it would be a pretty cool event, if that makes sense. I feel like if we have the opportunity to do something like that, we probably need to. Okay. Jayan says, Duvernay just went 1502 in my Underdog draft. If he hits, I am rich. Yeah, my man. If only he hit last year. If only he hit last year. I'll say, I texted you this earlier today as well, but I definitely think Devin Duvernay is in a much better spot now than he was back then. Okay, so let's scroll this down. Callie says, Michael Pittman or A.J. Brown in a half PPR format. Great channel, love the work. Thank you, my friend. I'm going to be going A.J. Brown. I mean, both passing offenses are going to be low-volume passing attacks where we should assume that they're trying to run the ball over and over and over again. But if we're looking at A.J. Brown versus Michael Pittman, I mean, Michael Pittman's never posted a top 24 wide receiver on a points per game basis. We've had A.J. Brown post a top 7 finish. And also, A.J. Brown's had 2.7 yards per route run over the past 3 years. The only other wide receivers to be that impressive have been Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson. Riley says, probably need another mod for the 24-hour live stream. How about this? If we hit 90,000 subs, we will make Riley mod. Riley, make sure you're dropping those likes, my friend. I know you already are. I'm just out here messing with you, pulling your leg. Now we have Rashad White, Cordell Patterson off the board, 119, 120. Love that Cordell Patterson value. I mean, I like Tyler Boyd a crap ton here. And also when we take Tyler Boyd, I think that we are going to save ourselves from not having to draft another wide receiver if we don't want. We're able to just go through. We're able to take extra roster spots at running back shots later on, as well as what we're going to be getting at tight end and quarterback. But Jalen Tolbert, Joshua Palmer off the board. Maybe I'm just burned. Literally, this is probably what it is. Probably what it is. I'm just burnt from the last draft of not having any wide receivers. So we're going through taking these guys nonstop. So I probably need to stop compensating for the last draft here and just start going back to the guys that we should be taking. Okay, so Cole Kmet 125. Tua Tagovailoa off the board. Let's go ahead. Let's take Nyheim Hines in this format. I think Hines is going to be great in this league in particular because, as I said, it's cumulative scoring. Weeks 15 through 17 aren't any more important than what we have at the beginning portion of the season. We just want someone that's going to have a role throughout the entire year, someone that is going to give us that consistent production. I think Hines is that high floor, low ceiling type player that we probably want to be avoiding that tournament style contest. But in this league in particular, I think he does make sense on this construction where we only had 2 running backs at the time. Justin Fields goes 128. Fields would have been intriguing. The issue is if we would have taken Justin Fields here, I would have felt the need to only draft a total of 2 quarterbacks in this league. In reality, we probably wanted to go through and we probably wanted to take just 2 extra guys at the very end of this draft. Derek says, what's your opinion on Isaiah Pacheco? Talked about this at the beginning of the live stream, but to be completely honest with you, I have too much money invested into the other running backs in Kansas City to be unbiased when it comes to Isaiah Pacheco. Like, as it stands right now, this is a player that I have absolutely none of. At the end of the day, he's a 7th round rookie running back out of Rutgers that was not efficient at all in college. He didn't have a great profile coming to the NFL. He doesn't really have any pedigree. So I would like to come out and say, oh, yeah, I know with Isaiah Pacheco, I see some upside, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if we should actually be staying away from him or I'm just very biased. So I've tried avoiding the conversation altogether. I've tried just not diving too much into it. Because in reality, if Isaiah Pacheco comes out and is the clear running back 1 for Kansas City this upcoming season, I'm probably going to be losing a lot of money. I don't think it's likely. Like, I'm not too worried. If I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know if I'm fooling myself, but I'm not too worried about that happening right now. Okay. So let's move this down. Alexander Madison's just the no-brainer selection there at 138. I mean, we are not going to be drafting too many more running backs with this team. But, I mean, Alexander Madison, we know any week that Dalvin Cook misses, he is going to be a running back 1 in fantasy. And on top of it, you've seen Dalvin Cook averaged 4 to 5 missed weeks every year of his NFL career. Obviously, that's not evenly dispersed. Okay. We have Michael Carter off the board at pick 144. Christian Watson 145. Let's move this back around. What are we going to want here? 5 picks away. We don't have a single tight end yet. I am completely fine with the tight ends in this range. We're not necessarily looking at wide receiver when we already have 7 of these guys. I don't need to be adding an 8th at this point. We'd be fine with running back. If we're looking at quarterbacks, the guys we would want, Jameis Winston. I don't even like, I guess, you know what? I'm not a big Matt Ryan guy, and I'm never looking to draft Matt Ryan in these leagues. But when we have both Michael Pittman as well as Nyheim Hines, if there was going to be a draft for us where we would need to consider to go ahead and to draft Matt Ryan, it would probably be this one. In reality, I'm not going to do it. I'm just instead going to be going through and taking Hunter Henry here. We're still going to take 3 tight ends, but if Matt Ryan were to fall back to us, we'd probably go ahead and take him. Like, I very, very rarely have been drafting Matt Ryan, but I guess it's because I very rarely have been drafting Michael Pittman. So usually I'm not used to looking for him, but I guess we would have to here. Let's scroll this down for everyone. So Tyler Algier here goes off the board, pick 155. Jameson Williams, 156. Williams is very similar in line to what we were looking at with like a DeAndre Hopkins, where it is going to come down to your format. If you want a wide receiver with that prototype, someone that is going to have that elite level ceiling down the stretch, but not give you production at the beginning portion of the season. This personally isn't my favorite spot to draft him. Like, I love the ADP that you're getting with Jameson Williams, just regarding the format that we're playing in right now. Just that the fact that this is a private draft. So as we already said, I'm not a massive fan of drafting Matt Ryan. I don't necessarily think Matt Ryan's a massive upgrade over Carson Wentz. I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't necessarily been hammering in Michael Pittman as everyone else has. But if Matt Ryan were to make it to us at pick 162, we probably have to draft him just from a construction standpoint whenever we have both Nyheim Hines and Michael Pittman. We've already kind of gone through and bet on this Indianapolis Colts offense, whether we like it or not. So let's go through. Scroll this down so y'all can see the rest of this roster. Okay, so yeah, let's just take Matt Ryan here. I don't love it. I truly don't, but we are getting him 5 picks behind his ADP. We are getting him on a team where it makes sense to have him. We've already bet on Indianapolis. But as I said, I mean, if you go through and if you look at the efficiency of Matt Ryan and the career fall off that we've seen over the past 2 seasons, and we compare that to where Carson Wentz was last year, Carson Wentz was significantly more efficient than Matt Ryan. Now, hear me out, because I already hear you in the comment section. No, I do not think Carson Wentz is better than Matt Ryan. I do think that Matt Ryan is a slight upgrade. I think the reason Carson Wentz was significantly more efficient is because he was in a better situation. But at the same time, to sit here and pretend that Matt Ryan is the same quarterback that he was 7 years ago, 10 years ago, just lying to yourself. Just lying to yourself. Okay, Kevin, my friend, you are going to get muted again for like the 10th time. You cannot spam your chat over and over and over again. You ruin the chat for everybody else. And if it happens again, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to get permanently muted. Please do not do that. Okay. So we have David Njoku, Gerald Everett off the board here at the end of the 14th. And I'm officially out of water, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, this is going to be tough. Okay, so on the way back around, I guess on some Matt Ryan builds, you would be looking to go through and add Alec Pierce here as well. Personally, I'm not going to be doing so whenever we're looking at the fact that this is a private draft. I don't necessarily think we need to have that double stack. I don't necessarily think that we need to have an extra wide receiver. Probably do prefer to just stop at 7 when we drafted these guys so early and hammer in a couple of these other running backs and tight ends. But Daniel Jones could also be appealing if we just want to get a quarterback that has access to some rushing upside on a week-to-week basis. Even if we don't have any of the New York Giants players. I guess actually you can't get Wan'Dale this late. You used to be able to get Wan'Dale Robinson at the very end of these drafts here. Raheem Mostert off the board, 171. I guess Tyrion Davis-Price isn't having the best reports coming out of San Francisco. Just sad. Do we have anything as of late? No. We have nothing over the past 25 days. Okay, Alec Pierce off the board, 172. As I said, I don't think we would have taken Pierce in this format in particular. But let me know in the live chat real quick, as I don't necessarily think these picks matter that much. Let me know, are y'all enjoying the Hard Knocks? Like, how many of y'all are watching Hard Knocks for the Detroit Lions? And are y'all impressed with what's going on? Because I'm not necessarily that impressed with what we're seeing on Hard Knocks, even though I know everybody loves to buy into some Hard Knocks hype. But we have Sammy Watkins going 173. I think we probably end up taking the Daniel Jones if he makes it to us here. Yeah, we are going to go ahead. We're going to take Daniel Jones. If it was a tournament-style draft, I'd be a lot more willing to just go through and to stop at 2 quarterbacks to save the extra spot on the wide receiver position. But with this being a private draft, just give me the guy that's going to score points. Okay, but let's go through. Let me see. Samuel says, love it. Go Lions. Mr. Padilla says, not watching. Neo says, best season of all time. Dear God, my friend. JB says, not impressed, but I like watching football. That's where I stand, my friend. That's where I stand. I mean, you got to be excited to watch Hard Knocks, regardless of if you're excited that it's the Indianapolis Colts or not, that we get to see friggin' Jared Goff. They haven't even really highlighted Jared Goff, but Goff has been on Hard Knocks a couple times already. What team would y'all want to see on Hard Knocks? Like, if I had to go through, if I had to pick a team, honestly, I probably would be looking at like I think the 49ers, like, imagine picking the 49ers this year where you have, like, the Jimmy Garoppolo just drama hanging over them, not knowing when he's getting traded, not knowing where he's getting traded. You have first-year Trey Lance. Like, Kyle Shanahan would probably be interesting. Jayan says the Texas Longhorns. Blake says the Bengals. The Bengals would be great as well. Hartnell says Patriots. Yeah, that would be great. Colin says Chargers. Packers, Raiders, Cowboys. Do y'all not like my answer with the 49ers? I feel like the 49ers would have so many storylines. Debo gets the contract extension. You have Shanahan. And you have Lance coming in as his quarterback this year. And obviously, like, Lance is such a mystery. I think he's going to be elite in fantasy almost regardless. We've been talking about that for 2 years. It doesn't matter what he is like from a real-life perspective. He's going to be elite in fantasy given his legs. But I feel like that would be super interesting. Okay. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Austin Hooper here as our second tight end off the board at pick 186. Inmates just Broncos or Eagles would be fun. I agree with that. I think the Broncos would be probably a pretty good one. Payne says, I'm taking Carr over Tom Brady 10 out of 10 times this season. Oh, my friend. I'm having a hard time getting there. Honestly, if we look at where Derek Carr usually goes in these drafts, like Derek Carr has an ADP of 108. Like, I'm not coming away with much Derek Carr. At the same time, I'm not drafting a ton of Renfro. I'm not drafting a ton of Devontae Adams. Really, the only Raiders pass catcher that I've been consistently taking is Darren Waller. Like, I'm not a massive fan of buying into this Raiders passing offense this year. Okay. And guys, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. I do not think we're going to hit 1,000 likes for another draft, but if somehow y'all can throw a miracle out there, if we hit 1,000 likes, we are going to fire up another draft after this one. We take Austin Hooper, pick 186. We need a third tight end, so we're going to get a third tight end either in this round or the following. We need one more tight end and one more running back to round out this roster. Quarterback right now, we have Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Daniel Jones. Running back, we have Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, Nyheim Hines, Alexander Madison. At wide receiver, we have Michael Pittman, Jerry Jeudy, Juju Smith-Schuster, Elijah Moore, Hunter Renfrow, Tyler Lockett, Tyler Boyd. And at tight end, we have Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. Okay. Alex coming out says, finally got in another draft. Thoughts at the 111. We'll be super happy to go through, check that out for you, my friend. Of course, thank you so much for drafting with us. Let me first, I guess, actually, all the running backs are about the same for us. Let's just go through and queue up some of these tight ends. We'll queue up my favorite 3 tight ends from here, and then we'll go through and check out pick 11. So Alex at pick 11, Najee Harris, CeeDee Lamb through the first 2 rounds. Josh Allen at 35, getting a very strong value there with Allen. I mean, Allen Robinson, 38. I'm not a big Allen Robinson guy, but at the end of the day, you're in no man's land. It's up to you. You do whatever the hell you want at 38. I mean, I panicked in that last draft, and we ended up going running back there at the turn. And then DK Metcalf, 59. David Montgomery, 62. I really like both those values. You have Kadarius Toney, 83. Dak Prescott, 86 to stack up with CeeDee Lamb. Dawson Knox to pair together there with Josh Allen. Damian Harris, 110 at a massive value. Michael Gallup, 131. I like Gallup more in those tournaments where we need to be worrying about weeks 15, 16, 17 than just a regular draft where it's cumulative scoring weeks 1 through 17. But still, Gallup, fine value. Isaiah Spiller, Tyler Algier, Isaiah Pacheco. I'm never going to be rooting for Isaiah Pacheco this season, but it is what it is. Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder. I love your draft, my friend. I think you have a much better draft than we do. I think partially you got lucky with some of the values that made it to you, but still, that's the name of the game. Great team. Okay. So let's move this back around. And I think, yeah, there's no way we are going to hit 1,000 likes in the live stream. We are over 100 away. So I don't necessarily think that y'all are dying to see our next running back. But before we leave, Flocky Valley coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says, hey, Mason, finally got in a draft for you at the 4. Much love. Okay, let me go through, check out your draft. Of course, thank you so much for being a longtime member of the flock, my friend. Thank you for supporting the channel. Let's go through, check this out. Kupp, Evans, A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver heavy through the first 4. George Kittle, love the value there at the beginning of the 5th. Getting Lance at the end of the 6th makes a lot of sense as that stack. Then Tony Pollard in the 7th. I like Pollard more in the 7th now than I did. Now that you have the James Washington injury, and it looks like they truly may not even have that choice, but to go out there and actually use Tony Pollard more as that wide receiver type player. Kareem Hunt, 93. James Cook, 100. Like those values. Garrett Wilson, 117. One of my favorite values in these drafts is going to be Garrett Wilson at that price point. Here we decided to go Tyler Boyd because it is cumulative scoring and we don't have to worry about back halving your production for that final 3-week stretch. Then after that, Darrell Henderson, James Robinson, Jamal Williams, Gesicki, Alec Pierce, Jared Goff, Marcus. I love your team. Yeah, real quick. I thought we got mixed up for a second. Let me just see. Who is your quarterback one again? Yeah, Lance. I would agree that I think in these contests, if you wait this long for your quarterback 2, you do want to go ahead. You want to draft 3 of those guys. I really do like it. 6 letters says Dynasty rebuild, A.J. Brown or Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashad Bateman in the first. You take the wide receiver with either Amon-Ra St. Brown or Rashad Bateman, your personal preference, and a first-round pick, assuming it's going to be a 2023 Superflex. But thank you, everyone. I truly do appreciate y'all. I really hope that you enjoyed this live stream. I hope you got something from it. And as always, I'm going to be doing this every single night for y'all. I have a ton of fun doing this. And if you want to draft with us in the next live stream, you already know how to do it. You can do that by coming out. I'm sorry. I got distracted by freaking Kevin out here spamming his question. We are just banning him permanently. But if you want to draft with us, you can find the link for Underdog Fantasy in the live chat. We do this every single night. You can draft with your friends, draft in the public lobby, do whatever the hell you want in these drafts. They're a ton of fun. And when you sign up and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially free for you. And with the $10 deposit minimum, you're going to get our 2022 rankings and our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. So make sure you take advantage of that. That's all I got for y'all. I truly do appreciate all of y'all. David says, yo, Mason, what's the best draft position in 12-team league PPR? 1 or 2, get Jonathan Taylor CMC. But thank you guys. I appreciate all of you. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow night.